Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Saiyan Fanfics, back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Was World's Greatest Killer. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Ochako Uraraka, age 21, occupation pro hero known as Uravity. It had been 3 years since he graduated from UA, and she was currently working under the pro hero Ryuko, also known as the Dragon Hero. Right now they were on a night mission to destroy an underground drug origination. Uravity, are we ready? Ryuko asked over her comms. Uraraka, who was on a nearby rooftop, looked down at the target building. Yes, ready when you are. Good. Mission time 10:30 p.m. Mission is a go. Ryuko transformed into her dragon form and landed on the building, causing it to collapse in on itself. There was no turning back now. Uraraka jumped from the building and landed on the street and towards the now destroyed building. But to her surprise, not one henchman ran out from the underground base. Well, that's weird. Uravity, Ryuko called out to her as she reverted back to her human form. No one came out. Uraraka shook her head. No, not one person. What do you think happened? Did they leave before we got here? No, we had this building under surveillance for the whole day. No one got in or out without us knowing about it, Ryuko said, scratching her head. For now, let's check the lab. It should be just under these stairs, but be on guard. Uraraka nodded and the two walked down the stairs. The area was poorly lit, and being that it was nighttime didn't help. As they walked further down, Uraraka began to notice holes on the wall. Ryuko, do you see this? Uraraka said, touching the walls. They look like bullet holes. They are bullet holes, but there are no reports or shots fired, Ryuko said. She was getting worried. Uravity, do you smell that? Uraraka sniffed the air. Why, yeah, it smells like blood. She turned to Ryuko, who nodded. They both quickly ran down the stairs. Then they saw a light flickering. There, once they got down the stairs, they stopped dead in their tracks, and what they saw would stick with them for the end of days. There in drug lab, blood was splattered across the tables, chairs, and walls. The bodies spread out through the lab, each in a pool of their own blood. My God, Uraraka held back the urge to throw up. They walked deeper into the lab, all the while avoiding the bodies. They came across a large bookshelf that had been moved, exposing a dark room. Uraraka was brave enough to step through them. Uravity, be careful, Ryuko advised. As soon as she walked in, the lights to the room turned on, and what she saw horrified her more than the bodies. Please help us, there were people in cages. Ryuko, we need medical personnel down here now. We have survivors. Uraraka yelled out. The dragon hero quickly ran into the room and saw them. Men, women, even children, all locked in the same cage. It seems they haven't been fed or bathed in weeks. What happened here, can you tell me? Uraraka said, approaching the lock, breaking it. He saved us, a woman said, her voice trembling. Who saved you? Uraraka asked. The shadow, the woman said with terror in her voice. The shadow, what are you? Before Uraraka could say anything else, a yell was heard coming from the back of the room. Turning towards the yell, Uraraka and Ryuko ran towards the source. They stopped when they saw a man chained up against a door, shirtless and covered in slash marks. No, please, enough, no more, the man yelled as Uraraka got closer. Wait, he's the leader of the drug ring we've been after, Ryuko said, surprised. The man looked up. Please take me in. Don't leave me alone with him, he said, grabbing onto Uraraka. Alone with who? What are you talking about? Uraraka said, shaking the man. But before he could say anything else, a shuriken flew past Uraraka and hit the man straight between the eyes. Blood poured down his face. Uraraka could feel the man's grip on her slip away until he fell dead. Horrified, Uraraka let go of the man. Turning around, he found someone standing at the doorway with a katana sword in one hand. The man wore a green jacket, with black trousers, a green hooded cowl, and a green cloth covering his mouth, only leaving his eyes. Why did you do that? He deserved to die, the man replied. No, he didn't have to. He was already beat. Uraraka yelled back. Yeah, I know. Who do you think did that to him? He asked. That's when Uraraka saw something drip down the blade. It was you. You killed everyone here, Ryuko added. The man stayed silent for a second. Yes, I did what you wouldn't. I solved the problem by murdering him. Uraraka yelled back. I killed a few, so saved thousands. Do you have any idea what kind of drug they were making? Nuke. This drug is highly addictive and gives you a shot of pleasure, even the smallest drop, and you are hooked. I've seen families ripped apart thanks to this drug. People losing their homes, money, and lives just to get their hands on some. But no more. What happened to me will never happen to another again, the man said. Uraraka swore. For a second she saw a glimmer of sadness in his eyes. Ryuko and Uraraka put their guard up, ready for a fight. You could fight me, or you can save everyone from this bomb. Mystery man pressed a button on the device. All around them, the two heroes saw timers counting down from 5 minutes. I've set this building to blow up. Fight me or save them, the choice is yours. Uraraka gritted her teeth. She wanted to take this guy down, but the people in the cages took priority. Ryuko, let's get the prisoners out of here. Underneath the mask, the man smiled. Good choice. Goodbye for now. The man threw down a pellet which exploded on contact, causing a smoke screen. As it disappeared, the man was gone, but the timer kept ticking. Uraraka and Ruko quickly got everyone out of the building. Everyone clear the building, it's going to blow. She ordered the police nearby. They had successfully gotten everyone out with 30 seconds to spare. Once far enough, everyone braced for the explosion. Point 5, point 4, point 3, point 2, point 1. The explosion that followed was massive, so much so that it shook the ground beneath them. Since Ryoko had destroyed the top already, the flames erupted high into the air. Uraraka watched as the flames consumed the building. Who was that guy? There were rumors of a violent vigilante going around killing criminals, but I never believed it, Ryuko said as the two heroes stood atop a building. He goes by many names: Snake Eyes, Blade, Deathstroke ... but we call him Viper, a voice said behind them. Turning around, they found the pro hero Eraserhead walking towards them. Mr. Aizawa, you know about him? Uraraka asked. Unfortunately, yes. I've had a couple of run-ins with him. He almost killed me a couple of times too. However, lucky for me, it only seems to like killing criminals, Aizawa said, remembering back to one of their fights. Wow, you're like one of Japan's best hand-to-hand fighters and you lost. This guy's quirk must be stupid strong, Ryuko said, surprised. That's the thing, we don't know if he has a quirk. If he does, he hasn't used it at all, said Aizawa. He's been doing this for a few months up throughout Japan, but now it seems he's staying here. He's looking for something and I want to know what. If he's as strong as you say he is, then you're going to need a task force, Ryuko said. That's why I'm here. Uraraka, you are going to be on this task force. I am assembling some of Class 1A top students to take this guy down, Aizawa said, turning his attention to her. Me? Why, I'm not the strongest hero, Uraraka said, pointing at herself. You're stronger than you think you are. Plus, with your quirk and hand-to-hand skills, it makes you a dangerous person to fight against. I'll be the first to admit one wrong move and I could lose in a fight against you. So what do you say? Will you join my task force? Aizawa said, holding out his hand. Uraraka thought about it for a second and then thought back to those people in the cages. All right, I'll join, she said, taking his hand and shaking it. Good. Go to UA tomorrow at 10 a.m. There you will meet the rest of the task force. Don't be late. And with that, Aizawa began to walk away. The rest of Uraraka's night was spent doing reports back at the agency. It was about past midnight when she got back home. Man, today was rough, she said, taking off her costume and putting on something more comfortable. Throwing herself on her bed, she wore a pink shirt and black sweatpants. I wonder if those people all got the help they need, she said out loud. After checking her social media, she set an alarm for 8 a.m. and began to drift asleep. The next morning, she was woken up by the sound of her alarm. Getting out of bed, she went to shower. After she whipped herself some breakfast. Nothing fancy, just some bacon and eggs with a side of toast. Turning on the TV, Uraraka saw a report of last night's event. And to her surprise, the vigilante struck again the same night. The vigilante known as Viper attacked again last night. This time he took out a drug lab and the leader of the organization. May citizens are thankful for this young man's actions, but the heroes are condoning his actions and are calling for this arrest. People are actually praising him. Killing is wrong no matter the reason, Uraraka said, finishing up her breakfast. Looking at the time, she noticed it was already 9. Well, it's time to head out. Grabbing her stuff, she locked the door behind her and walked towards the station. After a 30-minute train ride, she made it to UA. Wow, nothing has really changed, has it? She said, stepping through the gates. She made her way towards the conference room, and to her surprise, Sue, her best friend, was standing outside the room. Sue, she yelled out. Sue saw her best friend and went to hug her. Ah, Chaco. It's been so long. How are you? She asked, pulling away from the hug. I'm good, just busy with hero work, that's all. So Mr. Aizawa called you in too, said Uraraka. Sue nodded. Yeah, there are more of us inside. Come on, we were just waiting for you to show up. The two opened the door. The room was large with a giant table in the middle. Walking in, Uraraka saw who Aizawa had called in for this task force. There sat Shoto Todoroki, Momoya Irazu, Eijiro Kirishima, Tenya, and last but not least Katsuki Bakugo. Aizawa sat in the middle with All Might, the former #1 hero, at his side and a detective known as Naomasa. Uraraka, I see you made it, Aizawa said, his voice tired. Yup, so I heard I was the last one. Well, no, that's I'm here, let's get started, Uraraka said, taking a seat. Well, alright then, Aizawa said, turning on a projector. Up came the blurry photo of Viper. This is an SS class villain known as Viper. He's been going around all of Japan killing drug dealers, rapists, murderers, and known villains, all the while escaping capture. Wow, it looks like he's doing our job, said Kirishima. Well, we don't kill. Yes, well, he has been targeting villains. The way he does it is wrong, Naomasa said, switching slides. These are all victims of the Viper. As you can see, he shows no mercy. Pictures of the bodies of yesterday's attack were shown. This guy, Ruthless Todoroki, commented. That he is. Our objective is to capture this villain and bring him in for questioning, All Might said, wearing an oversized suit. Sir, if he's been avoiding capture this whole time, what difference can we make? Ada said, raising his hands. Because this time we know where he is going to attack, Aizawa said. We know he attacks criminals, and seeing that he already took out one drug factory last night, he's most likely going to attack the other one. This factory is located near the pier, Nanosama spoke up. I see, so we are setting up an ambush, Momo commented. Makes sense if you ask me. If this guy really is that hard to catch, then an ambush is the best way to catch him, Sue said, agreeing with this plan. Glad to hear that. So that's why we need you all. Once he's inside the factory, that's when we strike. Sue, you will be in the water in case he decides to run, Sue nodded. Ada, you will guard the area around the factory to make sure no one gets in or out. The rest of you will follow him inside and bring him in, but you must work as a team. I'm looking at you, Bakugo, Aizawa said. Bakugo scoffed. We are serious about this work as a team, don't, and your lives can be in jeopardy. Make no mistake, Viper is dangerous, and if given the chance he could kill you all, but if you fight together he will be overwhelmed, All Might said. Everyone looked at each other and nodded. All right, then All Might will do it, Uraraka said, standing up. All Might smiled. Good for now, get some, save your strength, you'll need it for later tonight. With that, everyone decided it would be best if they stayed at UA until it was time. They talked about work, who took down the baddest villain, and even reminisced of the old days. Hours later, they all got a call from Aizawa telling them to suit up. It was time. The pier, 2:45 a.m. Uraraka, along with Bakugo, Kirishima, Momo, and Todoroki stood at the ready, waiting for Viper to show up. They had been waiting for hours and still nothing. How much longer do we have to wait? Bakugo said, frustrated. As long as it takes, Todoroki said in his monotone voice. Just a bit longer, Bakugo. I'm sure he'll show up sooner or later, Kirishima said, trying to calm his friend down. As the night went on, Uraraka became more and more nervous. Something just felt off. However, any nervousness she had quickly disappeared when they heard gunshots coming from within the factory. What the? How did he get past us? Bakugo yelled out. Ada, come in. Momo yelled through her earpiece. No response. Sue, do you copy? No response. Damn it. Everyone move in. Aizawa yelled over the comms. The five of them ran towards the building. Kirishima used his quirk to break down the wall. Once they got in, a familiar scene played in front of Uraraka. In front of her, bodies and blood were everywhere. And in the middle of the room stood Viper, pointing his swords at the leader, ready to stab him through the chest. Todoroki created a pillar of ice separating the two. Viper looked back at the heroes. That's enough, Viper. You aren't killing anyone else, Momo yelled. Enough talk. Die, Bakugo yelled, rocketing in, but to his surprise Viper dodged. What? Viper used the handle of the swords to hit Bakugo in the stomach, causing his to fall to the ground, holding his stomach. Too easy. Bakugo. Kirishima rushed in with his quirk active. His body hardened as he tried to punch Viper, but he simply dodged his attacks with ease. Your quirk allows you to harden your body. You're strong, but your speed leaves something to be desired. Viper was about to attack, but from the corner of his eyes he saw something move. Using Kirishima as a wall, he jumped back, dodging Momo's bow staff just inches away from his face. I know you ... Yeah, you can create things using fat tissue, Viper said, dodging them both. Momo then created a bolas and threw it at Viper. Seeing this, Viper jumped behind Kirishima and kicked him in the direction of the bolas, trapping him. You rely too much on your quirk that leaves your body weak to attack, pulling out a small device and stuck it on Kirishima. After a few seconds, the device exploded, knocking Kirishima out of the fight. Viper then kicked her in the stomach, sending her flying towards the wall. Momo, Todoroki yelled out. Seeing that everyone was in the clear, he created spikes of ice that appeared from the ground towards Viper. Timing it perfectly, Viper used the rising ice to jump into the air. While in midair, he threw a few shuriken at Todoroki. Thinking fast, he created a wall of fire, melting them before they hit. Made you look. Todoroki looked down to see 5 small black pellets rolling to a stop under him. As soon as they stopped, an explode caused him to fly towards the hole they entered, taking him out of the fight. Todoroki. Now it was only Uraraka standing in Viper's way. Damn it. If I'm going down, Ima go down swinging, she said, rushing in. Viper sheathed his sword and put up his fists to fight her on even grounds. I saw you yesterday. I trust that everyone got out all right, Viper said, blocking every punch and kick Uraraka threw at him. Uraraka continued to attack. Why, yeah, they got out all right. Why can't I hit you? She said, getting tired. Would you like to know? Faster than Uraraka could see, Viper went to punch her under the chin but stopped just short. You leave yourself too wide open. You have technique but you lack speed. Pushing his fist down, Uraraka went for a right hook but stopped when she saw Viper's fist on her left cheek. Also, your moves are too linear ... too predictable. She managed to kick him back, gaining some distance. Thanks for the lecture, but I have my ways of fighting, she said, smiling. This confused Viper. What are you? Before he could finish, Uraraka touched her fingers together. Release, she yelled, running at him. Viper looked around but found nothing. That is until he heard something rumble above him. Looking up, he saw pieces of the broken wall falling towards him. So this was your plan all along. Under his mask, Viper smiled. Good trick, it would have worked if it wasn't me. Pulling out his sword, Viper began to slash at the falling rocks, slashing them into dust. I just need to get in close. This is it. Uraraka reached out to touch Viper. She was just a few millimeters away when he disappeared. What? Viper had gotten behind her and put her in a chokehold. Sorry about this, but I can't afford to get caught just yet, he said, squeezing harder. Uraraka struggled to get air. She could feel his consciousness fading. And no, we have to stop him. Just before losing consciousness, an explosion hit Viper in the back, burning his costume and exposing his back. Letting go of Uraraka, Viper turned around to find Bakugo had gotten back up. You bastard. Time to die. Annoying as always, Catchin. Viper threw 2 throwing stars at Bakugo's gauntlets. Nice try, but that won't slow me down, Bakugo said, running towards Viper. I wasn't trying to slow you down, he said. Bakugo stopped when he heard a beeping noise. Looking at his gauntlets, he noticed it was the throwing stars were blinking. Explosives, he thought, trying to take them off before they blew up. He got them off and tried to toss them aside, but it was too late. They exploded a few feet away. The explosion hit Bakugo head on, knocking him out as he hit the wall hard. Uraraka fell to her knees, grabbing her neck, and gasped for air. Bakugo, she said, coughing out. She then watched as Viper towards the leader of the drug factory with his sword drawn. Wait, she called out. But Viper did not stop. The leader tried to run away, but Viper cut his Achilles tendons, preventing him from leaving. Wait, please, I give you whatever you want. You want money, drugs, women? I can get you anything, just let me live. The man begged for his life. Do you honestly think you can talk your way out of this? Viper said, stabbing the leader in the thigh. However, I'll give you one chance to redeem yourself, he said, pulling out the blade, causing the leader to scream out in pain. Where is your boss hiding? Someone like you couldn't run something this big without a figurehead. Viper used the flat part of the sword to lift the leader head up from under his chin. So tell me, where can I find him? The leader smiled. Wouldn't you like to know? Viper punched the leader in the mouth. I'll ask you again. Where is he? Said Viper. The leader spit out blood. What happened? Did we kill someone you cared about? Maybe a family member or maybe a girlfriend got hooked on our drug. Viper punched the leader again harder. Shut up and answer the question. This time the leader spit out a few teeth. So that's it, huh, girl? If she got hooked on our drug, then she must have been a real BTCH. This is where Viper snapped. He kicked the leader hard, causing him to spit out blood. You don't get to talk about her. As the leader laid on the ground, Viper raised his blade and stabbed him through the chest near his heart. I just pierced your aorta. I pull this out, you die. Now tell me, where is he? Viper said, kneeling down, staring into the leader's eyes with rage. The leader began to laugh. I am dead either way, aren't I? Yes, he scoffed. Then you will get nothing from me. The leader grabbed the blade and pulled it out, causing him to bleed out. Viper got up. Idiot. I'll find him eventually, he said, grabbing his blade, whipping it clean. He began to walk away, but was stopped when he heard someone call out to him. Why are you doing this? Revenge. I don't know who you lost, but they wouldn't want you to do this. All this killing. This won't bring them back. Viper stopped. I know ... She's gone. There's no changing that, but if she's dead, they don't get to live. They lost that right when they killed her, and I won't stop until they are dead at my feet. Why, you're wrong. There has to be another way ... Let me help you. We can bring those who wronged you to justice, said Uraraka. Viper stayed quiet before turning to face her. I'm sorry, but there's no turning back for me. I am a monster. Uraraka's eyes went wide. And no, you're not a monster. She reached out to him. This is my chance. He put his guard down. If I can touch him, then we win. She was about to touch his shoulder when he grabbed her wrist, stopping her. You almost had me there. I even put down my guard for a second. Viper pulled her in close. You remind me so much of her. Uraraka blushed. She was so close to his face. That's when she noticed his eyes. Your eyes, they're so green. Almost like emeralds. Viper's eyes went wide. Without warning, he pushed her away. Stay out of my way. Next time I won't hold back. He then disappeared into the night. Suddenly a voice yelled out in Uraraka's ear. Uraraka. Todoroki. Bakugo. Anyone please respond. It was Aizawa. I'm here, sir, Uraraka responded. Oh, thank God. What happened? Where is Viper? He asked. He's gone, sir. We lost big time. We need medical personnel at this location, she said, disappointed in herself. I see. I'll send medical personnel there. Just sit tight, Aizawa sighed. This isn't good ... Once everyone is cleared, meet back at UA. Yes, sir. Uraraka then went to check on her friends. For the most part, they were all right. Uraraka later found out they found Sue in a sort of hibernation state thanks to a sudden change of temperature, and Ida had his engines frozen up. As Aizawa and All Might arrived, the three of them talked about what happened, but there was something that bothered her. Why did the Viper kill Bakugo? Catchin? Does he know who he is? I'll have to ask him later. Uraraka walked into the meeting room at UA, where she found her former classmates, some wrapped in bandages. She was the only one who didn't sustain any injuries that required medical treatment. So what happened? All Might asked. Everyone stay silent. We got our asses kicked, that's what, said Kirishima. Speak for yourself, spiky hair. Bakugo shouted at him but had to stop when the pain shot up his side, forcing him to quiet down. As difficult as it may be. He's right. We got our butts kicked plain and smile, Momo said with a look of regret. This guy is different. The ways he moves, you don't just do that. It takes years to train yourself to that level, Todoroki said, frustrated. Aizawa looked at the demoralized group. The responsibility of his failure lands on me. I was the one who put together this task force. I am sorry, he said, bowing slightly. They all looked at each other and nodded. So where do we go from here? Asked Sue. We need to find out why he's doing this. Did any of you speak to him? Asked All Might. I did. They all turned to Uraraka. He was about to choke me out when Bakugo intervened so I wasn't knocked out of the fight. When he was about to kill the leader, he asked him where their boss was. Boss? I didn't know this drug organization had a higher leader, All Might scratching his head. Apparently they do. Also, he got really upset when they asked him why he was doing this. From what I understood, he lost someone really close to him, his wife or maybe girlfriend. I guess he lost her thanks to that drug and is looking for revenge, she said, remembering back to last night. What I find strange is that he called himself a monster, like he thought of himself as less than human, Uraraka said, looking around at her classmates. Strange, but not surprising. He has killed a lot of people, said Ida, adjusting his glasses. Uraraka shook her head. No, I don't think that's why. Just as he was about to leave, he turned and looked at me. In that second, I saw a glimmer of regret in his eyes when he was talking to me. He said I reminded him of the person he lost. Did you get a good look at him? Aizawa asked. His face was still covered, so all I could see was his eyes and his hair, which were both green in color. Also, when he knocked out Bakugo, I heard him mention a name, Kachin, said Uraraka. Bakugo's eyes went wide. What? He yelled out, slamming his hands onto the table, breaking it. He called you Kachin, she repeated. And no, it couldn't after all these years. I thought he was dead, Bakugo said. Everyone took note of his extreme reaction. Someone you know, Bakugo? All Might asked. Maybe. There was only one person in the world who called me that. Izuku Midoriya. We are we're childhood friends. He was easily the nicest person in the world. However, the last time I saw him wasn't at his funeral more than 14 years ago, he said as sweat began to pour down his face. FCK. His funeral. What happened to him? Momo asked. Bakugo stayed quiet. It started when we were 4 years old. I got my quirk and everyone else in our class did as well, but he didn't. He was quirkless, so we picked on him. They call him Deku. That includes me. He put up with it for years, but one day our teacher came inside the room to tell us he jumped for a building, Bakugo said, hanging his head in shame, hiding the fact that he was the one who told Izuku to jump. You what? How could you do that? Uraraka yelled at him. I know. I live every day regretting what I did to him, Bakugo said as a tear fell down his face. Enough, both of you, Aizawa said. We aren't here to discuss Bakugo's past actions. Not now, at least. Is there anything else you can tell us about him? Bakugo thought about it. Not much. After that incident, his mother moved away and we haven't stayed in touch. How is he alive? We can ask him that when we capture him. For now, rest up. You all are going to patrol the city at night in a few days. If you spot him, do not engage. Call for backup, All Might said. Sir, what makes you think things are going to go differently? I mean, he already kicked our asses, said Sue. Don't worry, I'll call in a favor. This time we won't be overpowered. We will bring him in next time, All Might smiled. Everyone nodded in agreement. Good. Now getting information on him is going to be difficult since he was presumed dead. I'll make some calls to my old underground friends to see if they know anything, Aizawa said. You're dismissed for now. Everyone got up to leave and headed out the door. I hope things are going to end differently tonight. I really don't want to get beat up again, said Kirishima. Bakugo stayed quiet as he walked the empty halls of UA. Deku, I swear I will bring you in and find out why you are doing this. Then I hope you will forgive me. 2 days later, after everyone recovered, as per Aizawa's orders, they split up. Everyone talking. A section of the city. Uraraka was guarding an area near downtown. This place was filled with construction projects. Using her quirk on herself, she jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Man, it's getting cold. I should upgrade my uniform for the winter, she said, shivering. She stopped on top of a crane to warm herself up. From her belt, she pulled out a small hand warmer. Ah, this feels so good, she said as her hands started to warm up. Uraraka, this is Aizawa, come in, Aizawa's voice said through the comms. Yeah, I'm here, what's up? She asked. There was a report of Viper being sighted around your area, so be on guard, he said. Thanks for the heads up. I'll keep a lookout for him. Suddenly, Uraraka caught a glimpse of someone running across the rooftops. Is that? Uraraka, what is it? Said Aizawa. The figure kept jumping across the rooftops. The moon was behind a cloud, which made it that much harder to see. However, once the moon appeared, Uraraka's eyes went wide. Viper's green costume was seen as well as the glimmer of his blade in the moonlight. Sir, have everyone come to my position. I have Viper in my sights. Really? Good. I'm sending everyone your way. Do not engage. He's too dangerous for you to fight alone, Izawa said, pinpointing her location. That won't work. I'm going after him. If we lose sight of him now, we may not have another chance to capture him, Uraraka said, activating her quirk and jumping from atop the crane. Uraraka, don't. It's too dangerous. Come in, Uraraka. Izawa got no response. Damn it. All might send in your favor. During her time at UA, Uraraka learned how to control her own gravity. With this, she used it to jump high and far and then slowly activate her gravity again to fall down. This made Uraraka very stealthy. You aren't getting away this time, she said, catching up to Viper. Viper jumped across a building. Man, this night was tough. There were a lot more heroes than usual. I almost got caught, he said, holding onto his arm. And this injury doesn't make it any easier. As he jumped to the next building, he sensed something coming at him. Turning around, he saw Uraraka falling from the sky. Got you, she yelled out, kicking him on the back, sending him tumbling towards the rooftop. After rolling for a bit, Viper pulled out his sword and stabbed into the roof, stopping his momentum. Viper groaned in pain. Damn it, I landed hard on my arm. So we meet again, Viper, Uraraka said, landing on the roof. Or should I call you Izuku Midoriya or maybe Deku? Viper's eyes went wide. I have no idea who you are talking about, he said, standing up. Oh really? I heard you last time calling Bakugo Kachin. When I told him about it, he had quite the reaction, Uraraka said, smiling. Of course he did. Well, did he tell you what he did to me when we were kids? Oh, and by the way, don't call me that, Izuku said, pointing his sword at Uraraka. He did, and he feels terrible for it. Now are you going to come with me quietly or not? She asked, walking towards him. How about not? If you don't mind, I have some other pressing matters, he said, turning his back on her. I didn't say you could leave. Izuku turned around. Does it look like I need your permission? Stay out my way if you know what's good for you. Uraraka's eyes twitched. Why you? She ran at him to his surprise. Fine, I guess we are doing this the hard way, Izuku said, throwing down a smoke pellet, which covered the whole rooftop in a black smoke. Uraraka coughed. Cheap tricks. Come on and fight me fairly. Izuku came out from the smoke and slashed her across the arm before disappearing once again into the smoke. Don't think it's fair. You should have stayed out of my way. Uraraka gritted her teeth as blood dripped from her cut. This is how I was trained. Do what you need to do to win. She then felt another slash coming from back. No matter how cheap it may be. Slash after slash, Izuku would appear from the smoke and cut Uraraka. Not enough to kill her, but just enough to hurt her. Damn it, I need to predict his next move. Uraraka noted her injuries. The only place he hasn't cut yet are my legs. That must mean. Izuku went low to slash at her legs, but when he went in, he didn't find her in the smoke. What? Where did she? Uraraka had used her quirk to jump into the air. Got you. Looking up, Izuku saw her spin in the air before delivering a hard kick to his head. Izuku hit the cement roof hard with such force that he cracked it. As the smoke cleared there, he laid seemingly unconscious with his sword at his side. Uraraka deactivated her quirk. She went to check on him. Oh snap, I didn't mean to hit him that hard. She saw that his chest was still rising. At least he's still breathing. Hey, round face, Bakugo said as he blasted onto the rooftop. Oh hey Bakugo, look, I got him, Uraraka said, pointing at Viper. Bakugo's eyes went wide. You actually got him, but you're bleeding all over the place. Get yourself patched up. So how'd you do it? Got lucky, I guess, she shrugged as she wrapped her cuts in bandages. Guess so. Bakugo crouched down. Let's see if you are actually Deku. He reached for his mask and pulled it off of him, revealing messy green-colored hair and freckles. So is it him? Uraraka asked, peeking over his shoulder. Bakugo closed his eyes. Yeah, it's him. Damn it, I didn't want to believe it. Why? Why did you become this? You really don't know, a voice said, scaring Bakugo. Opening his eyes, Bakugo saw Izuku awake. Bakugo then felt a sharp pain coming from his leg. Izuku had stabbed him in the thigh. Pushing himself off the ground, Izuku kicked Bakugo away from him. Bakugo, Uraraka yelled, running to his side. Damn it, I thought he was out. Izuku stood up and cracked his neck. I'd admit you caught me off guard and that hit was strong, but I wasn't enough to knock me out. I was just pretending. Sneaky, but this time we'll make sure you stay down, Uraraka said, rushing in at him. Izuku threw his arms forward and threw shuriken at Uraraka. Seeing them coming, she jumped and twisted her body, dodging them. Nice, but not good enough. He threw two more aimed at her hands, finding their target. They cut Uraraka's palms, causing her scream in pain. Closing her hands, she saw the blood dripping down. Now you won't be able to use your quirk, he said, walking towards her. Without warning, Izuku appeared in front of her and punched her in 5 spots throughout her body. At first it seemed as if it did nothing, but once Uraraka tried to walk, she immediately collapsed. What did you do? She said on the floor. Pressure points. Hit the right spots and you become paralyzed, he said, standing over her. Don't worry, it's only temporary. Before he could finish, a shuriken flew past Izuku. Bakugo had pulled it out of his thigh and threw it at Izuku. Get away from her. Izuku took a deep breath. You shouldn't have done that. Before Bakugo had time to react, Izuku was already in front of him, punching him across the face over and over again. For years I put up with your abuse. Do you have any idea how that feels like? I tried to find relief when I jumped from that building, but no, death was too easy for me. I woke up in a strange place where they trained me every second of every day to become a killer for 15 long years. And it all started because of you." Bakugo stood there taking punch after punch. "I am sorry," he said, bloody and bruised. This only made Izuku angrier. "Sorry. That's all you have to say. I went through hell because of you. You drove. No, you made me into this ... this monster." Uraraka laid on the roof, unable to move, watching in horror at the beatdown Bakugo was receiving, when suddenly a voice came through her comms. "Uraraka, I don't know if you can hear me, but All Might's favor is almost there. Hold on for a few more seconds." Izuku stopped his beatdown, his fist bloody. "I was going to wait until after I took down the drug lord, but I think it's about time for you to die," he said, reaching for his sword. "The source of my pain, my suffering. Everything leads back to you. Don't do it." Uraraka yelled out. "Shut up. Don't make me go after you next," he said as his eyes gleamed in the moonlight. Uraraka could feel his killing intent with that glare, but she pushed through it. Please stop. If you do this, every hero in Japan will come after you. Then that's when you'll tell them. Tell them all, whoever comes, whoever it is. I'll take them down," Viper said, raising the sword. Bringing it down. Uraraka closed her eyes, not wanting to see. Bakugo sighed as he saw the blade come down. "If my death means you'll find peace, then so be it." "I'm sorry, Izuku." Just as the sword was going to cut Bakugo down, a voice was heard. "Power." A fist then appeared from Bakugo's face and hit Izuku in the chest, sending him flying across the roof. Grabbing onto his chest, Izuku looked up to find the number one hero, Lemillion. "Sorry, I'm late, guys. Had to stop to help some people." Lemillion," Uraraka said. Bakugo fell backwards, but Lemillion caught him and laid him on his back. "Wow, this guy really did a number on you, huh?" "The number one hero, I didn't think you would show up to fight little old me," Viper said, gripping his sword. "When All Might called me for a favor, I knew it was serious, but I didn't think it would be for a vigilante villain," Lemillion said as his cape flapped in the wind. "So are you here to stop me?" Izuku said, raising an eyebrow. Lemillion smiled. "That's right. Well, then we'll just have to see about that." Gripping his blade, Izuku rushed at Lemillion. "So many openings," Izuku yelled out, slashing at him, only to have his sword phase through him. "Nice try, but physical attacks won't work on me," Lemillion said, still with a smile on his face. Let's see. Mirio Toga, quirk, permeation. This quirk always you to phase through physical matter, and you have a second unknown quirk. You also have a strong tie to All Might, the former number one hero. Did I miss anything?" Izuku said, looking back at Toga. This surprised Toga. "Wow, I didn't know you knew so much about me. Care to tell me how you got that information?" "Bring me in and I'll tell you everything," Izuku said, holding a few throwing stars in his other hand, then throwing them at Toga. "Fine, let's get this over with," Toga said as the throwing stars passed right through him. Izuku rushed in and tried to land a kick, but everything he tried, Toga would just slip by unfazed. "Let's switch this up." Izuku threw a small pellet. Toga dodged, but once the pellet was behind him, it exploded. This caught him by surprise. It wasn't a normal shuriken, he thought as he staggered forward, his back smoking from the explosion. Seeing his chance, Izuku delivered a hard hit to Toga's stomach. "No matter how strong your quirk may be, it means nothing if you lose your composure. But quirks have their uses." Toga, as his body began to glow, followed by yellow lighting surrounding his body. Izuku backed away when he saw this. "Oh, this might be your other quirk," he said, holding his sword in front of him. "It's over, Viper. You can't beat me anymore," Toga said, standing proud as the yellow lightning danced around him. "It's not over till I say so. Come on." Before Izuku could do anything, he was hit by multiple blasts of wind. Each hit ripped his costume, exposing his skin. The blasts were strong enough to break his skin, causing him to bleed. "GH. That's enough, Viper. It's over," Toga said, slowly walking towards an injured Izuku. Blood flowed from his wounds. "This won't be enough to stop me," Izuku said, using his sword to stay up. Blood trailed down the sword as he pushed himself up. "Please, enough. Stop," Toga said, but this time it wasn't a command but rather a request. "And not until they pay for what they did to her." With shaky hands, Izuku managed to raise his sword. Before anyone else could move, the clicking of guns was heard. "I found him, guys." Looking around, Toga saw henchmen on the roofs around them, pointing guns at them. "That green guy is there. He's the one who destroyed the lab yesterday. The boss wants him dead. The one who brings him the body gets a $2 million reward. Fire it will," one of them ordered. The bullets began to rain down towards Izuku. Toga tried to stop the henchmen and managed to take down a few before they fired, but it was too late. At least 10 shots were heard. Uraraka's eyes went wide as she saw the bullets flying at Izuku, but to her surprise he didn't move. What followed amazed everyone. Izuku turned and swung his sword down, splitting one of the bullets in two. For Izuku, it was as if time itself slowed down. One by one, the sound of metal on metal ricocheted through the night. Toga watched as Izuku cut all the bullets into. This was apartments by the holes around him. The henchmen even stopped firing when they saw what Izuku did. That's impossible. Just as I thought. You all don't deserve to live." Izuku smiled evilly. Toga saw nothing but felt the henchman in his hands go limp. Looking back, he saw a kunai in between his eyes. Look at the rest of the henchmen, he saw the same thing. Blood poured down in between their eyes before falling dead. Win did. I didn't even see him throw them. I was only using 35% of OFA, but still it shouldn't have slipped past me. Uraraka was in awe and shock at what he just did. She then began to get feeling back in her legs and upper body. As she slowly got up, she looked at Izuku. His wounds have opened up even more thanks to his quick movement. Hey, you need help. I don't need help. I need to get out of here, he said, wobbling to the edge of the building, but stumbled before he got to the edge. Uraraka rushed in and caught him, keeping him upright. Easy, you shouldn't move. Izuku turned to her with pain in his eyes. I need to stop him. I need to kill him. He took everything away from me. Let us help you then. But she was cut off by Izuku. No, you heroes can't do what needs to be done. A good criminal is a dead one, Izuku said, trying to get away from her grasp. I know you lost someone, but don't let this be their legacy, Uraraka said, hoping she could convince him to give this up. However, just as Izuku was going to respond, a loud bang was heard. Suddenly, Izuku felt a sharp pain coming from his back. Looking back, he noticed one of the henchmen was still alive. The kunai had missed his head and hit him on the shoulder. The henchman had the strength to pull his pistol and fire a shot at Izuku, which hit in the back near his left lung. Viper, Uraraka yelled out as he fell to his knees. Hold on, I'll try to stop the bleeding, she said, pulling out a sterile gauze pad, but the blood kept running. I got him, the henchman said, but was quickly knocked out by Toga. Damn, he's losing too much blood. Uraraka began to panic. Aizawa. This is Uraraka, sent in the medical team. Bakugo is down and Viper is in critical condition, she shouted over the comms. Understood, sending medical personnel your way now. God damn, what happened over there? Izuku coughed out blood. It's okay, I'll see her soon now, he said, closing his eyes. No, you're not dying on me, she said, holding the bloody gauze pad. Hey, come on, don't do that. Stay with me. I'm sorry, Misaka. The last thing Izuku heard was the sound of Uraraka opening a new gauze pad and the sound of ambulances in the distance. 1 year ago, Izuku was being dragged by his arm by a woman. The woman had brown eyes and hair going down to her shoulders. With a moderate figure, come on, Izuku, we can still make the final ride, she said, smiling as they walked along a pier. I'm coming, slow down, you're going to trip, Izuku said, his legs trying to catch up with his body. The two walked in the direction of a large Ferris wheel. Are you sure you want to do this? I know you're scared of heights, he said as they made it in line. The girl nodded hesitantly. Why, yeah, I'm sure. Besides, if I learned anything being with you is that you need to face your fears, she said, grabbing him by the elbow. Well, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want another roller coaster incident, Izuku chuckled. The woman pouted. Hey, that was only once. Izuku pressed his hands against her inflated cheeks. I know, I just wanted to make fun of you. My little zapper. The woman laughed. I'll show you, zapper, as a small spark of electricity came out of her finger and hit Izuku on the side. Oh, he said, fake crying and wincing in pain. Oh, don't be a baby. We both know that didn't hurt, she said as they were ushered into a gondola. But Misaka, but before he could say anything else, the gondola began to move. Fine, I'll leave it at that for now. Their gondola went around and higher, which stopped when they were at the top. Looking over at her, Izuku noticed Misaka was shaking. You alright? Oh yeah, I'm fine. Perfectly fine, Misaka said, trying to grab onto the seat. Izuku smiled. Come here, I know you are scared. Misaka hesitated but eventually joined him. Leaning on his shoulder, they enjoyed the view of the moonlight hitting the ocean. It's beautiful, isn't it? She said. Yeah, it is, but you know what else is? He said, looking down at her. What? Misaka said, looking into his eyes. Her chestnut brown eyes gleamed in the moonlight. Misaka blushed, then smirked. How long did it take you to come up with that one? About 30 seconds, Izuku said, chuckling. They stayed in silence. Then Izuku leaned in and kissed Misaka on the lips. Still afraid? He asked, pulling away from the kiss. Misaka shook her head. No, with you here I feel like I can do anything. Oh, that reminds me, he turned and shuffled around inside her bag. Here it is. She pulled out a small box. What's this for? He asked, taking the box. She smiled. For your birthday, silly. Happy birthday, Izuku. Oh wow, I completely forgot. Thank you. Well, aren't you going to open it? She said, eager for him to open his present. Of course, Izuku quickly opened the box and pulled out a silver cross necklace with a green and brown gemstone on each side. Wow, it's beautiful. Turn it around, Misaka said. Turning it around, Izuku noticed that their first and last names were engraved on the back with a little heart separating the two names. Now you can carry both of us near your heart. Thank you. You don't know how much this means to me, he said as a tear fell down his face. Pulling him close, Misaka kissed him on his cheek. You're welcome. Present day. The beeping of a heart monitor was heard. Izuku laid on a hospital bed as heroes surrounded him. So do we have anything on him yet? Asked Aizawa. Not much. Izuku Midoriya, 21 years old, formerly thought to be dead. No paper or online trail anywhere. Whatever he's been doing these past years, he was making sure to cover his tracks. However, while they were tending his wound, they found a cross necklace that had 2 names engraved onto the back. His name and a girl named Misaka Makoto, said Nanomasa, going over his notes. So who's the girl and where can find her? Maybe she has answers to our questions, Aizawa said. Nanomasa sighed. Sadly, you can't. She passed away about a year ago due to an overdose on nuke. So that explains why he's doing all of this, Uraraka said, looking at a sleeping Izuku. Indeed, now the questions of his training. He sliced bullets in 2 while they came at him from multiple directions. You can't just do that, Tagata said, remembering back to last night. Yes, and according to one of the nurses, this body is covered in scars, so his training must have been intense to say the least, All Might said. Uraraka leaned close to Izuku's face. It's so weird to think someone with an innocent-looking face can kill so easily. She was a few inches away from his face when Izuku opened his eyes. Still drowsy, he saw someone with chestnut-colored hair in front of him. Misaka. Uraraka, back away, now, Aizawa yelled, putting up his guard. Izuku got startled by the sudden yelling and tried to sit up but found his wrists cuffed to the bed frame. What? Where am I? Uraraka backed away. You're at a hospital, recovering from your injuries. Izuku calmed. I see. He then felt that something was missing. Where is my necklace? Oh, you mean this? Uraraka said, showing the cross hanging from her neck. It fell off when they were transporting you here. Izuku's face turned cold. Take it off. Uraraka's eyes went wide as she backed away in fear. That when Tagata stepped in between them. Not until we get answers. Izuku's gaze then went to Tagata. Taking a deep breath, Izuku relaxed. There's not much to tell, but whatever. Ask away, he said, laying back on the bed. Good, so tell us. First question. Who trained you? What you've done is not normal. It takes years to master, and even then, Aizawa asked, taking a seat. I was trained by an organization to say, the League of Assassins. A group filled of highly trained assassins that has one goal in mind. World domination, said Izuku. Everyone's eyes went wide. I don't believe you. I've never heard of this organization, and I've been around the world fighting crime, All Might said, looking at Izuku. Izuku gave a small chuckle. It's because you're not supposed to know about them. They operate in the shadows, never altering any one of their existence. This sounds like an organization that you can't simply walk away from. So tell me, how did you leave? Tagata asked. Izuku sighed. Truth is, I never did leave. I ran away. I was tired of all the training. All the killing, it was all just too much. And there I was, nothing more than just a warrior. A weapon for them to use, he said with sadness in his voice. How was it that you joined with this group? Asked Nanomasa, writing everything down. I didn't have a choice. I'm sure Bakugo has already told you that I jumped from a room, right? Aizawa nodded. I thought I died, but apparently the leader of the organization took my body and brought me back to life somehow. Resurrection. That's impossible. No quirk in the world can do that, Ochako said in surprise. It wasn't a quirk. I don't know how, but they have a pit that can bring the dead back to life. Apparently the leader of the organization saw some worth in me and brought me back. For years I served him without question. But a few years ago I left and went to start my own life away from there, Izuku said, closing his eyes. Then that's when you met this Misaka girl, Aizawa said, cutting in. Izuku nodded. She showed me that there was more in life than killing, he smiled, thinking back to when she was with him. But now she's gone and the ones responsible are going to pay, he said, his voice turning cold-blooded. I see, but sorry, that's not going to happen. That job is going to be left for us heroes, Aizawa said, standing up. Izuku rolled his eyes. Right, because you heroes do a lot of good, he said sarcastically. You capture the bad guy, take a few pictures, and that's it. You don't solve the problem, you only fuel it. My method is more persuasive. You kill, you're nothing but a murderer. Uraraka said, snapping at him. I am what this country needs. You can't stop crime. That's what you heroes never understood. I'm doing what you won't. I'm taking them out. Izuku yelled back. Uraraka then looked at him with remorse. I know you lost someone you cared about, so let's us get you the help you need. Suddenly the image of Misaka flashed in his mind. No, I'm sorry, but it's too late. You heroes had your chance. I will kill every single one of them. Izuku moved his tongue around and removed a fake wisdom tooth and bit down on it, causing a loud crack. From his mouth a small pellet ball fell, hitting the floor, and instantly the room was filled with black smoke. I can't have you heroes slowing me down. Goodbye for now, Izuku said as the smoke covered him completely. Make sure he doesn't leave. All Might yelled out. Uraraka and Tagata jumped in the direction of the bed only to have them find an empty bed. Damn it, the window. The smoke slowly began to clear and the heroes looked around for Izuku, but he was already long gone. Only the sound of wind coming in from the window was heard. I thought we checked him for any gadgets, asked Uraraka. We did. We just never looked in his mouth, Aizawa said, pissed off that he got away. We need to go after him. He couldn't have gotten far with his injuries, Uraraka said, running towards the door. Hold it, Uraraka. All Might said. She stopped dead in her tracks. You are still recovering yourself, so go home, get some rest. We'll find him, you've done enough. Uraraka didn't want to, but she didn't want to end up like Bakugo. Fine, but call me if you find. All Might nodded. Of course, now go. Uraraka walked out of the hospital. As soon as she did, her phone began to ring. Taking it out, she noticed it was Sue. Hey Sue, what's up? Hey Ochako, you busy? Sue asked. No, I just got out of the hospital and was heading home to rest for a bit, said Uraraka. I see. Well, some of the girls wanted to hang out, get a couple of drinks, you know. Uraraka looked at her watch that read 6 p.m. Sure, why not? After everything, I could use a drink. Same place as last time. Yeah, same place, Sue said. Yeah, let me just go home to change and I'll see you in a bit, bye, Uraraka said, hanging up. Uraraka hailed a cab. Now home, she quickly showered and changed before leaving to meet up with her friend at a restaurant. Bar. Hey, look who's here, Mina said, waving her down. Hey, sorry I'm late, some stuff went down at the hospital, Uraraka said, taking a seat. Oh, what happened? Momo asked for a drink. He escaped. The girls were in shock. There's no way. How did he escape? Asked Mina. Even though she wasn't part of the task force, she knew who they were talking about. Don't know. But he created a smoke screen in the room and somehow got out of his restraints, Uraraka said with a disappointed look on her face. Whoa, this guy really is dangerous. So why aren't you out there looking for him? Asked Sue. Mr. Aizawa told me to take a break, so here I am, Uraraka said, taking a drink. That's my girl. Oh, by the way, when did you start wearing jewelry? Mina pointed at the necklace. Oh, I completely forgot about that. This was Viper's, I was holding onto it, but now he's gone, so I guess I'm keeping it, Uraraka said, holding the cross in her hand. I guess. Well, whatever, come on, let's enjoy ourselves, Mina said, chugging down her drink. The night went on as the girls continued to drink, eat, and talk. By the time they were done, it was about midnight. Some of them even got drunk by the time they were done. All right, easy, Mina, Kirishima said, holding up a drunken Mina. Hey, I know you. Yeah, you're my boyfriend, Mina said, wobbling. Kirishima sighed. Yes, we all heard you before. Now come on, the cab is waiting for us. He then turned to Uraraka and Sue, who were still there. Well, I'll make sure she gets home safe. Are you too good to get home or want me to call someone? No thanks, we are good, but thanks for the offer, Uraraka said, smiling. She too was a bit tipsy but not too far gone like Mina. Kirishima nodded and walked Mina to a cab that was waiting for them. Well, Sue, are you going to head home? Uraraka asked. Sue thought about it. Yeah, I got a meeting later on and I don't want to show up with a sleepy face. Uraraka nodded. All right, then I guess I'll head home as well. Good night, Sue, stay safe, she said, waving goodbye. They both got into their taxis and went home. On the ride home, Uraraka couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. Must be the drinks I had, she shrugged it off. Opening the door to her apartment, Uraraka took off her jacket and began to walk to her bed when she heard a noise coming from the kitchen. She quickly turned around. Hello, anyone there? She announced, approaching the kitchen. Slowly she began to turn the corner to the kitchen. Whoever this was, they picked the wrong hero to mess with. Jumping around the corner, Uraraka turned on the lights and put her fists out in front of her, ready for a fight. However, she found nothing. I guess I was imagining things. Just as she was about to turn around, something cold touched her neck. Looking down, she immediately tensed up when she noticed it was blade of a sword. Turn around and don't make a noise, the person ordered her. Uraraka slowly turned around to find the emerald eyes of Izuku staring at her. He then pressed the blade up to her neck again. Good, now stay quiet. With his free hand, he reached out to about her chest area. Uraraka feared the worst, so she closed her eyes, but found some relief when he reached for the necklace and not her body. Opening up her eyes, she saw Izuku holding the cross in his hand. Without warning, he wanked it off, causing her to flinch. Breaking into my house just for some silver. Why? Izuku lowered his sword and began to back away, all the while pointing his sword at her. Why? I don't get it. Why risk coming here just for $50 worth of silver and gemstone? She asked. Izuku stopped. Because this is worth it, he said, showing her the necklace before turning to leave. If I were you, I would leave this city. Lemillion will find you and take you down. Why stay in this city? She asked, trying to get information out of him. Izuku stopped again. He then turned to find pictures of two people hanging on the wall. He assumed they were Uraraka's parents, but underneath the picture was a candle burning incense. Why are you a hero? He asked. My parents were honest people. They ran a small construction company a few years ago, but then a large corporation began to take all their jobs, leaving them with nothing. Then one day I found out that they tried to bully my parents into selling them a few projects. When they refused, things took a turn for the worst. They were killed in a construction accident, but I know it wasn't an accident, Uraraka said, holding onto her arms. You never went after them? Izuku asked. I did. I even had the help of Yue, but in the end the judge was bought out and ruled in their favor. To this day I'm still going after them, trying to catch them doing something illegal. Uraraka clenched her fist. Damn those OCP bastards. Izuku's eyes went wide. Did you just say OCP? Uraraka nodded. Does the name Dick Jones sound familiar to you? Why, yeah, he's the vice head of OCP. Why? She asked, not sure why he would say that name. That's when Izuku had a realization. Of course. Why didn't I see it sooner, he said, almost kicking himself. What did you find something out? Uraraka asked. The warehouses were all owned by OCP under the name Dick Jones. That means he's behind all of this, Izuku said, smiling and his eyes burning with rage. Killing him would be too easy. I'll start by taking him down slowly and painfully. He will lose everything and everyone precious to him. Why, you mean you bring down OCP? Uraraka shook her head. No, you can't go around killing people. The smile on his face disappeared. I wasn't asking for permission. In that moment, Izuku relaxed and fell to his knees in pain from his bullet wound. Izuku, she yelled. She tried to help him, but she was stopped when he put out a hand. I am fine. Leave me alone, he said, pushing himself up. Geez, is that the way you talk to Misaka? I almost feel sorry for her. Izuku glared at her. Uraraka quickly covered her mouth. Sorry, I didn't mean. It's fine. Izuku got close to Uraraka. You know, now that I got a good look at your face, you two really do look alike. Those hazelnut-colored hair and those beautiful chestnut-brown-colored eyes. Uraraka blushed as he got closer to her face. What are you doing? But your face is rounder than Misaka's. This made Uraraka mad. Well, sorry, my face is round. I can't help that, she said, pouting. Izuku laughed. You even got the same attitude. He smiled, but not a forced one. This one was a real, genuine smile. You know, you look a lot cuter smiling, Uraraka said. Izuku stopped and blinked twice. What, come on, don't be silly, he said, blushing. The two then shared an awkward moment of silence. Well, got what I wanted. I'll see you again, Uraraka. Oh, and you might want to look behind you. Uraraka turned her head. Behind me, what are you? Seeing nothing, she then looked back, but he was gone. What? When did he? Right, League of Assassins wouldn't be much of an assassin if he wasn't silent. We'll see each other soon, Midoriya. You can count on that. OCP HQ. High above the OCP tower, a man in a suit sat in his chair yelling through the phone. What the hell? You let him get away. I thought you and your men would have dealt with this by now. What's the hold-up? I'm losing millions by the day. Get it done by next week or you can kiss the financial support for next year goodbye. Long day, sir. A woman in a red dress asked as she brought him over some tea. You can say that. I have him working at the police station as my informant and he can't even handle one pest. The man said, taking a sip of his tea. If things continue like this, I'm going to lose more than I gain. Sir, if I may, why don't we call in him so he can deal with this guy? The woman suggested. The man thought about it. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but not yet. I gave my informant 1 week. If after 1 week he can't deal with Viper, then I'll send him in. The woman bowed. Very well. If that is all, Mr. Jones, I think I'll take my leave. Somewhere out in the Totori sand dunes, a tall man with pale skin wearing a spiked leather jacket rode in the sand on his Harley Davidson. The main man needs to find work fast. About 1 year ago. Hey Izuku, can you pass me the salt? Misaka said, preparing dinner for the two. Yeah, sure. Izuku opened the cupboard and found the salt. Here you go. Thanks, she said, adding salt to the food. So what are you making? Izuku said, hugging her from behind. Hey, watch it. I almost spilled the salt and I'm making some garlic butter chicken, she said, surprised at the sudden hug. My favorite, he said, smiling. Yes, I know, now go change and wash up. It's almost ready. Izuku nodded and went to go change. As he was changing, her heard a loud thud coming from the kitchen. Oh great, did she trip on something again? Misaka, you all right? He yelled out. No response. Misaka, you all right? Still no response. Weird, she usually yells back by now. Izuku walked out the room with his shirt half on. Misaka, Zapper, you all right? As he walked into the kitchen, his eyes widened. There on the floor was Misaka grabbing onto their stomach. Misaka. Izuku ran to her side. Izuku. It hurts. It hurts so much, the pain so bad that she could barely get out any words. Don't worry, Misaka, I got you, he said, grabbing her hand, and with his other free hand he called for help. As he was calling, Misaka fell unconscious due to the pain. The paramedics arrived a few minutes later to take her away. Izuku was in the back of the ambulance holding onto her hand. As they arrived at the hospital, he was told to wait outside. That would prove to be the longest hour of his life. Not knowing what was happening to Misaka pained him. Finally, after the hour, Izuku was led to a room where Misaka was taken. There he found her laying on a bed awake. Misaka, you're looking a lot better. Hey Izuku. Yeah, sorry I ruined dinner, she said, smiling. Hey, don't worry about that now. We can always enjoy it later, he said, taking a seat by her side. So what did they say? Not much. They were running a few tests to figure out what happened. They even did a full body x-ray, she said, concerned. Izuku saw this and grabbed her hand. It's going to be fine, Zapper, he smiled. Misaka's nervous face began to fade. Why, yeah, I'm sure you're right. Just then the doctor walked in with a clipboard in hand. So Doc, what's the news? When can we get out of here? Asked Izuku. The doctor looked up with sad eyes. I'm afraid it's bad news. After we did the x-ray, we discovered a large cell mass in your pancreas. Misaka began to worry. We don't usually see this unless it's an indication of pancreatic cancer. Then after running some blood tests we have confirmed it is cancer. Izuku could feel Misaka squeeze his hand harder. See cancer ... So what do we do? When do we start treatment? He said. Unfortunately that won't work anymore. The cancer is in its T4 stage and has already spread throughout her body, infecting her lungs and brain. I'm sorry, but there is nothing we can do, the doctor said with regret. And no, come on doc. There has to be something. Chemo. What about chemo? Izuku asked, his voice beginning to panic. Chemo would have worked if it was in earlier stages, but unfortunately it's too late. Chemo would only make things worse. With palliative care we can make her last months comfortable. I truly am sorry, the doctor said, hanging his head. But she hasn't even complained of any pain. Izuku said. Her quirk is electromagnetism, right? Railgun as you call it. Misaka nodded. I have the suspicion that your quirk has been blocking your pain receptors, making it that you feel no pain. Today the pain must have been so extreme that her quirk couldn't hold on. How long? Izuku asked. It's hard to tell, but best case scenario. A few months. Worst case scenario. A few days, the doctor said with sadness in his voice. Misaka smiled. Thank you, doctor. I know this is hard for you too. But I'd like to be home when my time comes. The doctor looked up. I'll have one of the nurses hand over the necessary paperwork. With that, doctor left the room, leaving the two of them alone. As soon as the door closed, Izuku went to hug Misaka and began to cry. She hugged him back as tears fell from her face. Why did this have to happen? Izuku yelled out, muffled. The world works in mysterious ways, Izuku. This was just meant to happen, she said, stroking the back of his head. The car ride home was quiet. Only the small cries of Misaka were heard. Once they got to their apartment, Misaka turned to Izuku. Listen, Izuku, I have something to say. He looked up, wiping the tears away. These next months are going to be bad for you too, and I don't want to burden you with being with someone who is doomed to die ... So if you want to leave me, I would understand. But before she could say anything else, Izuku stopped her. Don't say that. I will stay with you until the very end, no matter what. Misaka smiled. Thank you, Izuku. I love you. I love you too, Misaka. Now and forever the two shared a kiss. Present 1 week since Izuku escaped. So tell me, why are you heroes here again? A man said, turning around in his chair. There stood Aizawa, Uraraka, and Tagata. Because Mr. Jones, we have reason to suspect Viper is coming after you, Aizawa said, staring down at the older-looking man. Why? I haven't done anything that might have warranted this, Jones said, shrugging. This made Uraraka mad. We all know that was bullshit, she said, slamming her hand on his desk. Jones just stared at her. I remember you. Yeah, you're that girl who tried to sue me, he smiled. Tell me ... how are your parents? Uraraka's eyes went wide. Her rage began to burn within her. She pulled her arm back, ready to punch Jones in the face. But Aizawa saw this and threw his capture weapon around her arm, stopping her. Uravity, stand down. He's not worth it, he said. She relaxed. Putting down her fist, Aizawa let the cloth around her arm go slack. Uraraka turned around to leave. If you ask me, maybe Viper should go ahead and kill him. It would save us the trouble. Slamming the door behind her, Uraraka left the office. Aizawa sighed. I would like to apologize for her behavior. Jones smiled. Heroes today have no respect. That's your problem. Uravity is an amazing hero, and I won't tolerate you bad-mouthing her, Tagata said, staring at the old man. Whatever ... So what happens now? I get some heroes to protect me. Jones asked. Yes and no. We can't have you under 24-hour protection. This building should be enough to protect you, but once you step out, a hero will accompany you, Aizawa explained. Jones nodded. I see. Well, I hope you heroes take care of this pest soon. My men are getting close to finding out who he is, and when I do, let's say it won't be pretty. Aizawa was going to say something when the phone on Jones's desk rang. Yes, another transport. How much was lost? FCK, find him. With each transport he destroys, that's millions down the drain. Jones angrily hung up the phone. Adjusting his tie, he looked back up at the two heroes. Sorry about that, but it appears another one of my convoy was destroyed thanks to his Viper. That's the 4th this week, even though he's injured, Tagata said, sounding almost impressed. His revenge is the only thing keeping him alive, and he won't stop until he's gotten his revenge, Aizawa said. The question becomes, why is he after you? Jones shrugged. Don't know, my company only makes hero gadgets, most of which we give to UA. So you say, I warn you now, Mr. Jones, if we find anything in your company, you can bet I will bring you down, Tagata said, towering over the old man. This didn't faze Jones. Save your threats for those who are afraid, number 1 hero. Leave, I am a very busy person. The two heroes left the office to find Uraraka leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. Have you cooled off yet? Aizawa asked. Yeah, I'm fine now, sorry about that. So what do we do from here? She asked. As much as I don't want to, we have to make sure Viper doesn't get to him. That means he will need a bodyguard, Aizawa said, looking at Uraraka. No, absolutely not, she said, protesting. I know you have your reasons to hate him and I don't blame you for that, but you are a hero. Unless we find evidence he's been doing something illegal, then we don't have much choice, Aizawa said. That's when Tagada stepped in. I can take care of him. Uraraka, you are too personally involved with this to properly protect him. Aizawa thought about it. You're right. Alright, we will rotate duties. Tagada will take the first day. For now, Uraraka, you're with me. We are going Viper hunting. Viper has switched things up. He's now attacking OCP cargo trucks. Stay with the trucks and Viper is sure to show himself, Uraraka said. Aizawa nodded. Exactly. We'll set up an ambush. Alright, got it. Who else is coming? Uraraka asked. Just us. That way we won't have to worry about anyone else. So no holding back. Do you understand? Aizawa said, glaring at Uraraka. Uraraka's eyes went wide. Sir, you know I won't do that, she said. You have to, or more people are going to die. Aizawa placed a hand on her shoulder. The Hero Commission has already given the green light to use deadly force. As of this moment, all heroes are to bring him in dead or alive. Uraraka looked away. I don't want to remember. I don't want to become that again. I know you don't, but we don't have a choice. Your training with Karnak was intense, but we need those powers now, Aizawa said, hoping that Uraraka would change her mind. Uraraka sighed. Fine, I'll do it, but this will be the last time. Aizawa smiled. Thank you, Uraraka. She nodded and walked off. So who's this Karnak guy? Tagada asked. Aizawa sighed. Years ago, Uraraka was scouted to work under a hero by the name of Karnak. He is a superhero based in a city called Attilan. A ruthless man, whose only goal is to send the criminals he catches in jail, be it in full body cast or coma, Aizawa explained. He has a special kind of power. He can see the structural weak points of anything. Buildings, cars, computers, people. Well, that's some power. But what does that have to do with Uraraka? Tagada asked. She knows how to use that power to some extent. However, she doesn't use that ability often, said Aizawa. Why? With that power she could climb the ranks fast, Tagada said, wanting to know why she wouldn't use a power like that. To use that power she has to empty her mind, void of any sort of emotion. She becomes the complete opposite of who she is now, ruthless, cold, and deadly. It also increases her physical limitations, making her faster and stronger. She once used this hysteria mode a few years ago. It was during a hostage situation. She was the only hero on the scene. The villains were about to start killing hostages, so she made the choice. By the time I got there, she had already taken care of them. However, of the 4 villains, 3 of them were permanently crippled. The last one is still in a coma to this day. Tagada's eyes went wide, so that's why she took a few months off. Yeah, from that day on she swore never to that mode again, fearing that the next time she'd kill someone. But there's no more time to worry about that. Viper needs to be taken down now, Aizawa said, looking out the window. Do you think she can do it? Tagada asked. Yeah, she can, because she has 2, Aizawa said, looking back to Uraraka. She may not like going into that mode, but with the other heroes preoccupied, she's all we got. Uraraka went home to prepare. She really didn't want to do this, but she was a hero first and she had a duty to fulfill. Looking at the picture of her parents, she sighed. Grabbing the photo, she removed it, revealing a safe behind it. She entered the combination. It was the day her parents died. Opening the safe, she saw 3 items. A light green hoodie, a M9 pistol with a silencer, and a curved dagger. Her hand was shaking as she reached into the safe. First, she grabbed the hoodie. Slowly, she began to put it on over her hero costume. Her heartbeat began to rise as she threw the hood over her head. She then for the M9 pistol. Looking at she tucked onto her back. She then reached for the dagger. The dagger was cured. The hilt was solid black. The blade itself was made of a special metal that could only be found in the Arctic. As Uraraka held the dagger, she thought back to her training with Karnak. Flashback. Uraraka didn't even see the fist coming, but she felt it. Before she knew it, she was on the floor grabbing onto her stomach. Get up, a man said, walking towards her. Gee, give me a minute, she pleaded, but the man grunted and without saying anything he kicked Uraraka across the face, causing blood to fly out of her mouth. Your enemies won't give you a minute. You have to learn to push through the pain and adapt. Now get up. With a tear in her eye, Uraraka pushed herself up. Good, now again. End of flashback. Uraraka shook her head. I didn't think I would put this on again. She turned around with the dagger in hand. She took a deep breath. All right then, let's get to work. Aizawa stood on top of a building with the moon on his back. What's taking her so long? The convoy is about to leave, he said, looking at time that read 11:45. I'm here, Mr. Aizawa, a voice said behind him. He jumped. How I didn't even hear you land on the roof. Aizawa squinted as he looked at Uraraka in her light green hoodie. Her aura is completely different. Training, that's how. Now what are we looking at? She said, looking over the edge of the building. 1 cargo trunk and 2 armored vehicles, he said, looking down at the trucks. 1 driver and passenger in the cargo trunk. 5 heavily armed personnel in each armored vehicle, most likely mercenaries. Uraraka nodded. Any sign of Viper? Not yet, and this is the only convoy going out tonight, so he has to show up. Stay alert. Oh, it looks like they are moving. Before Aizawa could say anything else, an explosion was set off underneath the leading convoy. Damn it, I've been watching over this since they got here. There is no way he could have gotten here first. Uraraka began to survey the area. and she noticed a man dressed up as one of the mercenaries pull out a sword. There, he pointed. Aizawa turned to see the sword slash across one of the mercenaries' chests, splattering blood all over the ground. "You're Raka, you have to do it now. Stay here and empty your mind, I'll buy you some time." She nodded as Aizawa jumped from the building. He got to where the mercenaries were and arrived to see Izuku stabbing one of them through the stomach. "Viper," he yelled out, and the mercenary hit the floor with a loud thud. Izuku turned with blood still running down his sword. "Oh, Eraserhead, how nice of you to drop by. Here to help me take out the trash." "Not quite," he said, readying his capture weapon. "Pity, and here I thought you cared about the people. Don't get in my way, Eraser." Final warning. Izuku pointed his sword at Aizawa. Just as they were to fight, the sound of gunfire erupted behind Izuku. Almost as if he had a sixth sense, he jumped into the air, dodging bullets as he flipped in the air. The boss's orders were clear. Kill him. It was the mercenaries from the other armored car. They had M16 and R15 rifles. The bullets zoomed by Izuku, some missing him completely and others just barely, but enough to graze his skin. He took cover behind the exploded armored car. One of the mercenaries motioned for the group to split up and take the other side. They were going to surround Izuku. "Wait, you guys can't do this," Aizawa said, standing in front of them. "Like hell we can. It's what we paid to do," one of them said. "Now get out of the way before we treat you as a target. You may be great hero, but even you can't dodge a bullet." Aizawa narrowed his eyes. "Would you really attack a pro hero?" he said as his eyes glowed red. The mercenaries looked at each other before turning their guns on Aizawa. "Yeah, we would." One of the mercenaries pulled the trigger and fired at Aizawa. His capture was durable, but would it stop a bullet? "It's time we find out." Throwing it in front of him, Aizawa used it as a shield. He reacted fast enough, but the bullet ripped through the carbon fiber cloth. Shit. Just as the bullet was about to hit Aizawa and the clanking sound of metal hitting metal was heard. Looking up, he noticed Izuku standing in front of him. "Viper," he turned to Aizawa. "Now you owe me. Get out here unless you want me to cut you down too." "Open fire," one of the mercenaries yelled. Bullets flew at Izuku and Aizawa. Faster than even Aizawa could track, Izuku deflected all the bullets. Every ... single ... one. By the time the mercenaries emptied their clips, Izuku was still standing. "Tell me." Viper pulled out 4 throwing stars and held them in between the knuckles of his hand. "Who sent you? I'm dying to know." The mercenaries fell back in fear. "L like hell will tell you." Viper smiled. "Oh, so you all know. Good. That means I only need one of you alive to talk." He threw the stars one by one as they hit the target straight between the eyes. One by one they fell. They didn't even have the chance to reload before their fate was sealed. There was one that Izuku left alive. This mercenary was new, only a few days on the team. He watched as those around him fell dead. Oh God. Oh God. What are you?" he yelled out, fumbling with the magazine. Izuku appeared, stabbing through his shoulder, pinning him against the metal door of the armored truck. "Your worst nightmare," Izuku said, pushing the sword deeper with his leg. The young mercenary screamed out in agony. "So tell me, who hired you?" Izuku said, lifting up his face. With tears in his eyes, the mercenary grunted in pain. I don't know. Tisk tisk tisk. Wrong answer. That's going to cost you a finger." Grabbing his hand. "Crack. FCK. He yelled out. His finger was now facing the other way. "You have 9 more fingers, so I suggest you tell me what I want to know. Who hired you?" Izuku said, yelling in his face. "Go FCK yourself." The mercenary spit in Izuku's face. He stood up and whipped the spit from his face. "Now that was just rude. Well, you are a cold-blooded killer who kills for money. That insult has a much steeper price. I'd say your kneecap." Izuku pulled out a kunai and was just about to stab it into the man's kneecap when he was stopped. Aizawa's eyes went wide. He quickly threw his capture weapon around Izuku's hand, stopping him from hurting the man any further. "I think that's enough," Aizawa said, holding onto his scarf tight. "Are you really protecting him right now? You know what he and his group have done?" Izuku asked, surprised. "His group is responsible for thousands of dead civilians' deaths in the Middle East when a warlord hired them to get rid of a rebellion." Aizawa said nothing. "Oh, there's also the time where he murdered a little kid because he saw their faces. So tell me, do you still feel like protecting him? It doesn't matter what he's done. Right now he's a scared kid. As a hero, I can't just ignore that." "Now drop the kunai," Aizawa said. He could feel Izuku's strength as he was fighting back. For a second it looked like Izuku calmed down. "You know ... you might be right." For a split second Aizawa relaxed. He never does that, especially when he's out doing hero work, but this one time he did. Seeing that Aizawa relaxed, Izuku grabbed the cloth and spun into the air, pulling the cloth as he did. This caused Aizawa to get pulled towards Izuku. Still in the air, Izuku managed to kick him straight in the chest, sending him flying towards a wall. Hitting the wall, Aizawa coughed out blood. 5 broken ribs with 1 kick. "And man, you've been working out since last time." Viper then walked towards him. "You're wrong. The only difference is at this very moment I'm not holding back. I'm done playing games." "Were you even trying to fight me?" he asked, looking down at Aizawa. With the blood running down his lip, Aizawa smiled. "No, I was just stalling." Stalling? Stalling for what?" Just then Izuku heard 3 silenced shots fired. Pulling out his sword, he cut through the bullets. That's when he turned towards the roof of a nearby building. Who's this? The person jumped down from the room and landed on the cement floor without making a sound. Impressive jumping from that height. Who are you? He asked. The person looked up to find the person had brown eyes with silver lining the cornea of the eye. That's when Izuku noticed who it was. Gravity. You're using a gun. I expected better from you. In a blink of an eye, Uraraka disappeared from his sight. Izuku had barely enough time to react when she appeared in front of him, ready to stab him in the chest. Using his katana, Izuku turned it, and with the flat part of the metal he blocked the attack. Sparks flew as the 2 metals crashed into each other. Well, if I didn't block that, I would have died. It looks like you're not playing around. So what's changed? He asked, holding back the strike. Uraraka didn't respond. Something is different about you. Before he could finish his sentence, he felt something hit his stomach near his kidney. Looking down, he noticed that Uraraka had kicked him. Izuku slid back as a result of the kick, but quickly fell to one knee, holding on to the spot she had kicked. She hit me right on my weak spot. Was it just a coincidence? During his training with the League of Assassins, Izuku sustained an injury on his kidney which he never really recovered. He looked up to see Uraraka, her face so void of emotion. What is this? You're completely different from the last time we've met, and those moves, they are almost like mine. Aizawa chuckled. This is her hysteria mode. She won't stop until you are taken down. Hysteria mode. What the hell is that? Izuku rushed at Uraraka, and with a swing of his katana he went to cut her arm, but was surprised to see her react and block his strike. Seeing a chance, Izuku punched Uraraka in the stomach so hard that he sent her flying back. Normally Uraraka would be grabbing onto her stomach, but she simply looked at him after recovering and dusted herself off. Izuku narrowed his eyes. This is going to more trouble than I thought. The 2 ran at each other with weapons at the ready. Both swung, and with a clank they 2 metal blades sparked on impact. 11 months ago, Izuku worked at a local steel factory and he hated it. The factory was always hot. He got burns on the daily on his arms, and the pay was not the best. Nevertheless, it paid enough for the 2 of them to live comfortably. After a 12-hour shift, Izuku just wanted to get home, be with his girlfriend, and enjoy dinner. Man, I can't wait to get home and enjoy Misaka's cooking, he said, smiling all the way. Misaka, I'm home, he announced, but he heard no response. Misaka. Memories of the last time she didn't respond flooded his mind. No, please. He ran to the kitchen but didn't find her on the floor, or in the kitchen for that matter. Strange, did she go out? He looked on the stove and didn't find anything cooking. Just as Izuku was about to leave the kitchen, he kicked something. Looking down at his feet, he noticed a small vial. What is this? He asked, picking it up. On the side it had the letter N. There was also a residue of something red on the rim. He looked towards the end of the kitchen and found more of these vials. What are these things? He said, following the trail to the bedroom. Izuku knocked. Misaka, you in there? When he knocked, the door opened up slightly. He pushed the door open. There on bed was Misaka. Oh, you're asleep, he thought as he walked towards her. But as he got closer, something was wrong with Misaka. Her eyes were wide open, but she wasn't moving. Misaka. He looked around her and found vials sprawled out around the bed. He went to touch her face, and that's when he felt her. She was cold to the touch. Please no. Izuku checked her pulse but couldn't find it. She wasn't breathing. Izuku pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Hello, I need an ambulance at 145 Yukata Drive. My girlfriend is not breathing. He yelled through the phone. Tossing his phone to the side, he began CPR, trying to resuscitate her. Come on. I'm not letting you die like this, he said, giving Misaka chest compressions. After 2 minutes, he still didn't feel a pulse. Misaka, please don't leave me. You're the only one who gave my life meaning. Please, he said, crying while still performing CPR. After 6 excruciating long minutes, the ambulance finally arrived, followed by the police. Izuku had to stay behind to answer some questions, but he refused. If they wanted to talk, they would have to do it at the hospital. He wasn't going to leave her. Izuku quickly jumped onto a bike that was outside and began to ride after the ambulance. The ambulance arrived first. Izuku was a few minutes behind, but by the time he bursted through the doors of the hospital, it was too late. He asked for Misaka, and they asked what was his relationship with her, to which he replied, boyfriend. They led him to a small office of the hospital and told him to wait for the doctor. So he waited ... and waited ... and waited. Finally, after an hour, a doctor and a police officer walked into the room. Izuku didn't even wait for them to start. He immediately got up and grabbed the doctor by his coat. Doc, how is Misaka? How is my girlfriend? The doctor looked Izuku dead in the eye. I'm sorry, Mr. Midoriya, but Misaka passed away. We believe it was an overdose of a new street drug called Nuke. We did everything we could to bring her back, but our efforts were in vain. I'm sorry. Izuku's world came crashing down. He let go of the doctor and fell to his knees. And no, this can't be happening. Mr. Midoriya, we need to contact her parents. Do you have any of their contact information? The doctor said as Izuku cried. And no, she did have any family. They died when she was young. I was the only family she had, Izuku said. He then punched the ground out of frustration, breaking it. FCK. The doctor backed away to leave Izuku let everything out. Then the police officer stepped up. Sir, we need to know where she got that drug and who she got it from. I don't know where she got it from. She's never done anything like this, Izuku explained. I find that hard to believe, sir. The only way you can get Nuke is if she had already been using drugs and knew someone. Izuku didn't like the way the officer spoke. What are you suggesting? Izuku said, getting up and whipping away the tears. Izuku was taller than the officer, as more fit than him. I'm saying she was just a run-of-the-mill user, just like every other junkie. Without warning, Izuku grabbed the officer by the neck and lifted him off the ground. I'll give you one chance to apologize, Izuku said, squeezing. Apologize. The officer gasped for air. The doctor stood in shock as the officer began to turn purple. Mr. Midoriya, please stop this. I know you've just lost someone dear to you, but don't do this. Izuku turned to the doctor with fury burning in his eyes. Please, son, Misaka wouldn't want this. I want to see her, he said, letting go of the officer. The doctor nodded. Of course, come follow me. The officer fell to the floor with a loud thud. Gee, get back here. You think you can get away with this? He said, taking out his baton. Izuku was about to step out of the room when he turned his head. Do anything else and you'll leave the hospital in a coffin. Am I clear? The aura around Izuku turned into pure killing intent. The officer pissed his pants as he dropped the baton. Why, yes, sir. Without saying anything else, Izuku followed the doctor to a room where they had Misaka. The doctor left to give him some time alone. Izuku walked over to the bed and saw her lying there so peaceful. It's like you're just asleep and about to wake up any second now, he said, stroking her brown hair. Why, Misaka, why did you have to do this? I know things were going to get bad, but we could have faced them together, he said as the tears fell from his face. That's when he noticed something sticking out of her pocket. Curious, he grabbed it and noticed it was a letter. Opening it up, his eyes widened. This is her writing. To Izuku, by the time you read this, I would be already dead, not by the illness, by some other means. First, I would like to apologize for not being there with you to hold you. I'm sure you are wondering why I did this. The short answer is I did it for you. Just in this month alone, I felt pain like no other, and things were going to get worse, especially for you. I know it may seem selfish of me, but I want you to move on, Izuku. See the world. Go do things those people that trained you didn't let you. We were together for such a short while, but I don't regret being with you, and I never will always love you. But now it's time for you to love someone else, someone who is not destined to die. So this is my last request, Izuku. Go live your life, be happy, grow up, get old, have kids. You are now free of all burdens. I love you, Izuku. P.S. I'll see you on this side, but don't you dare get here early, because if you do, I'm going to zap you. Izuku finished reading the letter, and pinned to the bottom he found a hairpin the shape of a frog. This was Misaka's favorite pin. He then pulled both pin and letter close to him. I promise you, Misaka, that I'll live a good life. But the people who gave you this drug will pay with their lives. That I swear. Present. The sound of metal against metal was heard all around. Both fighters seemed to be on par in tiers of skill and raw power. However, only one of them was trained to kill. Izuku trained for this, and he was ready to show her what she can do. Sparks flew as the two swung their blades, hitting each other and then faced off in the middle. Where did you learn this sword play? It's almost on par with the League of Assassins, Izuku said, pushing against the sword. Uraraka stayed silent, her eyes so void of emotion that they scared Izuku for a second. This mode of yours is something else. You have to be the second strongest person I faced in terms of sword skill. Uraraka eyed him up and down. From her eyes she could see at least 4 spots on Izuku's body that she could hit to kill him, and another 2 on his sword to destroy it. Kicking Izuku in the stomach, she created a short distance, and that was all she needed. With one powerful slash near the hilt of the sword, she shattered his sword. Izuku's eyes widened as his sword came apart in his hands. What? Uraraka then appeared in front of him, and with little time to react, she thrusted her dagger into Izuku's shoulder, piercing it. JHHH. Izuku yelled out as Uraraka pushed the dagger deeper into the shoulder. Aizawa smiled as he knew that his fight was now over. Yes, now capture him, Uravity. Izuku looked up at her. No, that's not your style, not in this mode, right? This mode makes you a killer, so do it, kill me. If you don't, then I'll just come back. Uraraka pulled out her pistol and pointed it at Izuku's head. Aizawa's eyes went wide. No, Uraraka, don't do this. If can bring him in alive, it would be better. Don't kill him. But she couldn't hear him. Her finger on the trigger, she stared at him and fired one shot. No, Aizawa yelled out, jumping at Uraraka. Izuku's head snapped back as the bullet hit. Uraraka had done it. She just killed Viper. She watched as his body hit the floor. Uraraka, why did you do that? She said nothing. Aizawa grabbed her and turned her around, and what he saw scared him. Uraraka was smiling. She just killed Viper, and she was smiling. My god. What did you become? Suddenly, Aizawa heard someone laughing. She's become a killer, Eraserhead. No, rather, she was already one. Aizawa looked at Izuku's body. He was horrified when he was Izuku sit up. She's done this before. I know the eyes of a killer and she has that written all over her face. How are you alive? She just shot you. Aizawa yelled out. Oh, you mean this? Moving around his tongue, Izuku spit out the bullet. I told you I was trained. Izuku stood up and pulled the dagger out of his shoulder, causing the blood to flow from the open wound. Uraraka wasted no time and emptied the clip on Izuku, to which he blocked them all with the dagger. Seeing that she had no more bullets, she rushed towards Izuku and landed a hit to his gut, causing him to spit out blood. However, it did nothing as Izuku raised both of his fists and brought them down on her back. This caused her to hit the floor so hard that she broke the concrete floor, spitting out blood as she did. Aizawa was about to jump in and help Uraraka, but Izuku jumped and kicked him in the head, knocking him out as he hit against the armored trunk. Now we can have some peace, Izuku said as Uraraka got up. Why don't we keep things even? Izuku threw away the dagger and put up his fists. Both fighters ran at each and landed a hit on their cheeks. Izuku was the first to recover. He kneed Uraraka in the kidney. Hunching over, Izuku was about to bring down his elbow and was shocked when Uraraka did a front flip and wrapped her legs around his head and flipped him over. Hitting the floor, Uraraka jumped on him and began to punch him over and over in the face. Izuku smiled. Now this is more like it. Izuku managed to get his legs around her neck. With all his strength, he pushed up and twisted Uraraka's neck, spinning her around. The two pushed off the floor and landed on their feet. Uraraka was breathing heavily and Izuku took notice. Getting tired? My guess is you can't keep that mode forever. Uraraka grabbed her head. Shut up and fight. This time Izuku took the initiative and rushed her, but instead of going for her body, he went for her legs. Swiping them, he knocked her off her feet. Just as she was about to hit the floor, Izuku spun around and kicked her in the head, sending her towards a wall. Blood spilled as Uraraka hit the wall. Gritting her teeth, Uraraka pushed herself off the wall and ran back to Izuku. He went for a right hook, but Uraraka ducked under his fist and countered with a strike to his weak spot. I'm not done yet, she said, and she hit 4 spots on his body. The first strike landed around his kidney. The second strike hit straight on his heart, disrupting his heart rhythm. The third strike hit under his abs. That's when Izuku knew what she was going for. Just as she was about to hit the 4th spot, Izuku countered by pushing his fist down, causing her to punch the floor. Seeing a chance, Izuku grabbed her arm and put her in an armbar maneuver. Leaning back, he pulled, causing immense pain. "J-H-H-H," she yelled out as she tried to push out of the hold, but Izuku wouldn't budge. "Give up. Don't make me break your arm," Izuku said, leaning back further. Uraraka reeled in pain. "I need to get out of this, but how? Come on, Uraraka, think." That's when she got an idea. A very painful one. As Izuku leaned back, he suddenly heard a loud pop. Looked at Uraraka and noticed that she dislocated her own shoulder in order to loosen the hold. This gave Uraraka the movement to twist her body and put Izuku in a flying triangle hold. This hold restricts the veins of the neck, and if applied long enough, it will knock out the opponent. Izuku got to his feet and lifted Uraraka up by the arm. "And nice technique, but who can hold out longer, me or you?" he said, slamming Uraraka onto the concrete floor. Over and over, Izuku slammed Uraraka to the ground. Each hit harder than the last. Uraraka couldn't take much more of this. The back of her head had split open from the constant slamming. She could feel the blood dripping down her hair. However, she could also feel that Izuku was getting weaker. This was now a constant of will. I need to hold on just a bit longer, she thought as she hit the ground again. With this most recent hit, Izuku fell to one knee, no longer able to keep standing. "FCK, just pass out already. You first," she grunted as he finally stopped hitting her against the floor. The veins around Izuku's mech began to bulge due to the loss of blood flow. Uraraka's eyes struggled to stay awake as she kept her legs around his neck. However, Uraraka had only a few months training under Karnak, while Izuku spent years training and learning with the League of Assassins. In the end, it was Uraraka who passed out first due to head trauma. Her legs loosened and Izuku escaped the hold. Supporting himself with his hands, he caught his breath. Man, she was tough. Whoever trained her did a good job in that mode. It's dangerous. I should get rid of her before she tries to stop me again. Getting up, Izuku walked over to the dagger and picked it up. I'm sorry about this, Uraraka, but I can't have you getting in my way. Izuku raised the dagger and brought it down towards her neck. Mama Papa don't go, Uraraka said while knocked out. Izuku stopped just inches away from her neck. His hand was shaking, not from his injuries, but rather from hesitation. Looking over at Uraraka, she really did remind Izuku of Misaka. Damn it, I can't do it. Izuku dropped the dagger and began to limp away, leaving the bodies and heroes behind. But not before he spray-painted a warning on the wall. He will die within the week. Once this is over, don't bother looking for me. You won't be able to find me. A few hours later, Uraraka laid in a hospital recovering from her injuries. Multiple broken bones, multiple bruises around her body, cracked skull, concussion, dislocated shoulder, and I had to put in 25 stitches just to close up the wound on her head. What the hell did she do? Recovery girl asked, looking over Uraraka. Aizawa sat on a chair with a bandage wrap around his head. Viper happened ... and oh rather this is on me. I made her do this, even when she didn't want to. This Viper guy. Anymore and Uraraka would be dead. I want you to remember this, Aizawa. Let this be a warning that it's better to leave things in the past. I already healed her major injuries, but I suggest she get some rest. Any movement can rip the stitching out, Recovery Girl said, leaving the room. Aizawa sighed. I'm such a failure. I forced you to go into a mode that you didn't want, but you did anyway. Yet this is the outcome. Suddenly Uraraka woke up gasping for air. She thrashed around thinking that she was still fighting Viper. That's when Aizawa stepped in, holding her down. Uraraka, stop. It's over, he yelled. Looking at Aizawa, she relaxed. Now knowing that she was safe. Where is Viper? She asked, laying back down. Gone. She looked away. Damn it, I failed. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, I promise. Aizawa shook his head. You're right, because there won't be a next time. As of this moment, Uraraka, you are off the task force. I will not put you through this again. Uraraka tried to get to protest but couldn't. Sir, please, give me another chance. No. What if next time he just kills you? I won't risk that. The task of bringing him in will now fall to others. For now, get some rest you needed, Aizawa said, walking out of the room. That's an order. Leave this room and I'll make sure your hero license gets suspended. Uraraka watched as Aizawa. If Viper wanted me dead, we would have done it while I was knocked out. Then why? Why didn't he kill me? Just then the door to her room opened up and in walked in Bakugo, covered in bandages and with crutches. I heard you had another fight with Izuku, he said, limping to a nearby chair. Yeah, and this is what happened, she said, motioning to herself. I also heard you gave him quite the beating. You even managed to stab him in the shoulder. That's pretty impressive. How did you do it? He asked. Uraraka looked away. I don't want to talk about it, Bakugo. Bakugo sighed. Fine. So what are you going to do? Did Aizawa tell you about the message he left behind? It said that Jones will be dead in 1 week time. How does that help me, Bakugo? I've been taken off the task force, Uraraka said. True, but you're still a hero, and if you happen to be near the building in the next week, no one would blink an eye, Bakugo said, resting his legs on a chair. Stake out the building and wait. Not a bad idea. However, I'm in no shape to fight, she said, sitting up. True, but you don't need to fight. Lemillion will be there once we spot him. I'll call him and he will stop him, said Bakugo. Uraraka smiled. Sounds like a plan. When do we head out? Bakugo got up. 3 days. Even someone like Viper won't be able to move if they had injuries like yours. Plus, I doubt he has access to someone like Recovery Girl, so he won't be a 100%. Uraraka nodded. True, but look what he did to me while he wasn't at 100%. We can't underestimate him. In a warehouse, Izuku sat on the mattress tending to his wounds. Man, that hysteria mode was crazy. I almost lost to her. He winced in pain as he wrapped his shoulder in bandages. And she didn't pull. He punches. I'd say a few days. I should be able to move around more freely. He then pushed himself up and walked over to a table that had a long case on it. Then I can finally end this. Pushing a button, he revealed a M107 Barrett .50 calories sniper rifle with 5 ballistic-tipped bullets. I'm only going to need 1 shot, he said, grabbing one of the bullets. This one will be for what they did to Misaka. 2 weeks after Misaka's death, Izuku held a small urn that had Misaka's ashes. He couldn't afford a place to bury her, so Izuku did the next best thing. He would scatter her ashes across the ocean. Izuku walked to the edge of the cliff holding the urn. Can you see it, Misaka? The sunset is amazing. This was one of the first places you took me, Izuku said, looking at the sunset, the cold ocean breeze hitting his skin. Well, Misaka, I'll see you on the other side. Izuku opened the urn and began to spread her ashes. The sea breeze carried them into the ocean. After emptying the urn, he stood in silence watching the sunset. He sighed and whipped away a tear. Now it's time for some payback. Heading back to his apartment, he went straight to the bedroom and pulled a small safe from underneath the bed. Izuku entered the code. I thought you changed the code, Misaka. Guess you knew someday I might use it. There in the safe was a katana sword. I promised you I would never use this, but forgive me, Misaka, I'm going to use this for a while. He then went to the closet and pulled out a green hooded cowl, a green jacket, black trousers, and a green cloth to cover his mouth. Izuku got to the top of his apartment and jumped from roof to roof. He was headed towards downtown. After a while, he made it to a tall building that overlooked an alley. Looking down, he noticed some in a black trench coat. There, he said, jumping down to the fire escape. He waited and eventually he saw someone come by. Slipped the trench coat guy a $50 bill. He then in turn handed over 5 packs of nuke. Izuku jumped down behind the dealer without making a noise. Taking out his sword, he pressed it up against his neck. The dealer stiffened as he felt the blade. Don't move, do anything stupid and I slice your neck, said Izuku, his emerald eye gleaming in the dark. Scared, the dealer swallowed a large lump. Oh, okay. What do you want? Money? Just go ahead and take it, man. I don't want the money. Tell me where you got this, Izuku said, digging through the dealer's pockets to pull out nuke. Nuke? I get it from a factory, the dealer said. Where? Izuku said, yelling. The dealer put up his hands up. Near the expo center, there's a giant silver building with a giant OC on it. Good. Izuku pulled away the sword. The dealer sighed. Does that mean you're letting me go? I never said I would now, did I? With no warning, Izuku stabbed the dealer in the back. Pulling the sword out, the dealer fell forward dead. I don't care if you are just a dealer, you are all going to die. Izuku jumped back onto the roof, looking down to see people beginning to gather around the body. Serves him right. Making his way to the expo center, Izuku looked for the factory. When he did, he saw the building with the letters OC. Found the roof to this building had a few glass hatches. Looking through it, Izuku saw multiple people working on developing nuke. I need to get inside, but there are too many people. I need to kill the lights. Izuku went to the side of the building and found the fuse box. Slicing the wires, the whole building went dark. Good, now I can sneak it. The leader of this warehouse walked out of his office. Hey, the hell? What happened to the lights? He yelled. Don't know, boss. We have someone checking it now, one of the armed henchmen said. Good. Tell the others to secure the perimeter. We don't want anyone getting in while this is happening. Almost as if on cue, gunshots began to ring out throughout the warehouse. What? Intruder. We got an intruder. Someone as they fired their weapon. The gun fell silent when Izuku's sword sliced through the henchman's gun, splitting it in two. Izuku then spun around, slicing at his legs. As he fell, Izuku stood up and stabbed the henchman through the back of the neck. The warehouse boss saw everything go down as the light coming out the gun lit up the area just enough to see the blood spilling from the henchman's neck. FCK. Who is that? Kill him. FCK, kill him. He yelled out. Izuku jumped around, dodging bullets, all the while cutting up the henchmen one by one. Blood splattered, smearing the walls. But Izuku kept going until there was only the warehouse boss left. The boss crawled around in the dark, trying to make his way back to his office. Just then the lights came on. Oh, thank God, he said, letting out a big sigh of relief. Behind him, Izuku stood holding his katana covered in blood. Turning around, the boss was horrified at what he saw. The devil. Someone, anyone help. Izuku stabbed the boss through the leg, causing him to yell out in pain. No, not the devil. Meeting the devil would be a mercy. I'm much worse. The boss grunted in pain and the blood poured. What do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. He then pulled out the sword. Can you bring back the dead? Izuku pointed the sword at the boss. The boss had tears in his eyes but said nothing. Didn't think so. You are all going to pay for what you did to her, and it all starts with you. Gripping his sword, Izuku swung it so fast that the boss didn't have time to react. The boss looked at Izuku, but suddenly his vision began to tilt. Before he knew it, the boss was looking at Izuku upside down. Izuku had sliced the boss's head clean off. He then turned away and began to set fire to all the drugs in the building. Izuku watched from a building as the warehouse began to burn to the ground. Some heroes shut up. There's still so much I need to do. With that, Izuku went home to get himself and his sword cleaned off. I need more weapons, but I need metal to do that. Oh, I know there's a lot of junk on a beach not too far from here. I can melt those down and use it from sure I can. Present. It has now been 3 days since Izuku had fought Uraraka, and both of them were nowhere near to 100%, but they had a job to do. Izuku was in his warehouse doing sit-ups, while Uraraka was in her apartment going over the plan with Bakugo. Even some of their friends said they would help, but if they saw Viper, they were not to engage alone no matter what. Izuku went to grab the case that had the sniper rifle. Well, this is it. Time to end this once and for all. The sun was setting when Izuku went to end this. His target was Jones, but Izuku knew Jones would be guarded. That's why he would use a gun this time. They would never expect Viper, who always used a sword, to use a gun. Never in a million years. The effective range for the M107 rifle is about 2,000 meters. That is for a normal person, but thanks to his training, Izuku could hit a target from well over 4,000 meters away, or about 2.5 miles. Izuku stood on the roof of a building directly looking at Jones's office. This is good enough. Putting down the case, Izuku began to prepare his weapon. Laying down near the edge with his legs spread out. Looking through the scope, Izuku could see Jones sitting down at his desk. Found you. Grabbing a bullet, Izuku kissed it before loading it into the chamber. His finger hovered over the trigger. Taking a deep breath, Izuku focused on his target, the head of Jones. He was on the phone with someone, but Izuku didn't care. Nothing mattered anymore. Conditions were right. No wind, no interference. But this Misaka can finally rest in peace. Squeezing the trigger, the bullet flew out of the barrel and rocketed towards its target. Izuku looked through the scope. What he saw shocked him. Jones was smiling, looking directly at him. What? A few moments ago, Uraraka stood on top of the building with Tsu by her side. So is he actually going to show up? I mean, he should be really injured. Ribbit, Tsu asked. He will, I know, Uraraka said, her face turning stone cold. If you say so, but do you think he'll attack while there's light out? She asked, but Uraraka didn't respond. Just the Todoroki's voice was heard through the headset. Todoroki here, no sign of him yet. Thanks, Todoroki. Make sure not to drop your guard, Uraraka warned. I know Momo would kill me if I got hurt again, he said. Uraraka smiled. Just then she looked towards the west and saw something gleaming in the distance. What is that? She pulled out her binoculars and looked through them. As her eyes focused, she saw Izuku looking through the sniper scope. Right there, she yelled out. He's about 2 miles west. He's got a sniper. Before she could say anything, a shot ran out. In that split moment, Uraraka accidentally activated hysteria mode. Her eyes were so sharp that she could track the bullet in midair. Looking at the building, she noticed it was heading straight to Jones's office, but she too saw Jones smiling. With Jones moments ago. The phone on his desk rang. "Hello, Mr. Jones. It's been a while," the voice of a woman said. Jones's eyes went wide. "How did you get this number?" "I have my ways, Jones. You of all people should know that," the woman said, laughing. "What do you want?" "We had an agreement." "Stay out of my business," Jones said with malice in his voice. "Tusk, tusk, tusk. That's where you are wrong. You see, your business is my business. But right now business is slow, isn't it?" The woman said. "Yeah, it's all thanks to this Viper guy. He wants me dead. Not the first time people want me dead, but he has the means to do it. He's even destroyed my entire stockpiles of nuke," Jones said, rubbing the top of his nose. "Don't worry about him, Jones. He will be dealt with soon. That's actually why I'm calling you today. I've sent one of my associates to help you against this Viper," the woman explained. "Oh, that's much appreciated. So is this associate good?" Jones said excitedly that his partner was going to help. "Very good. I trained her myself." "Oh, anyone trained by you must be the best. So what's her name?" Jones asked. "She doesn't have one, but you can call her the Electric Princess. To prove to you how good she is, our princess has already gathered intel on Viper. Look outside your window, to the west," the woman said. Jones turned his chair and looked west. "All right. I don't see anything. Wait, what's that glint?" "That, my friend, is Viper aiming a sniper rifle at your head. However, don't be alarmed. The princess will protect you. All you have to do is watch and wait. I'll be in contact soon, Jones." The woman hung up. Jones smiled as he put down the phone. He was blissfully unaware that Izuku had just fired the bullet with his name on it. Just as the bullet was about to hit the glass, someone jumped from the roof of the building with lightning crackling around them. As they dove, they pulled out a sword. Gripping it, the sword was then covered in lightning. Uraraka and the group watched as the person intercepted the bullet in midair, slicing it in two. With the help of the electricity, the person stuck the glass before turning to look at Jones sitting down. "Your orders, sir." The woman in front of him was wearing a black skin-tight bodysuit that showed off all of her curves. She also wore a black ninja mask that hid her hair and mouth. You could only see her eyes. "Track down the person who just fired at me and kill them, will you?" Jones said, pointing towards the direction of the shot. The mystery girl nodded. "Consider it done, sir." With lightning crackling around her, the woman jumped from the building onto another roof. Using her electricity like a grapple, she reverted the poles on the metal in the buildings to pull herself towards them, making her faster. Uraraka watched as the mystery person passed her and Sue, and she could have sworn that the woman narrowed her eyes at her before she disappeared from her sight. Dumbfounded, Uraraka watched the woman jump from building to building. After her. "She's heading towards Viper," she yelled out, snapping out of the trance. Uraraka then turned to Sue. "Launch me towards that direction." Sue nodded. Getting ready, Uraraka used her quirk on herself to make herself weightless. Sue wrapped her tongue around her waist and launched her towards Viper. Izuku looked through the scope and watched as the mystery woman sliced the bullet. Shit, he has a backup. He tried to hurry and pack the sniper rifle back into the case, but his injuries prevented him from moving fast. That's when Izuku could hear the crackling of lighting getting closer. Looking up, he saw the mystery woman in midair swinging her lightning sword down towards Izuku. He tried to block it with his rifle, but the sword sliced the gun in two. At the last second, Izuku managed to dodge, and the sword stabbed into the roof. Seeing a chance, Izuku kicked off the blade and flipped backwards, landing on his feet, gaining distance. The wound on Izuku's shoulder began to reopen thanks to his fast movements. "Who are you?" he asked, looking at the woman. "A weapon sent by the League," she said, pulling out her sword from the roof. "The League is working with Jones. That doesn't make sense," Izuku questioned as a blood stain was seen from his shoulder. You are the reason why they are working with Jones. Both the League and Jones want you dead." The woman pointed her lightning sword at Izuku. Izuku was baffled. "The League? How did they find me? I left them years ago. I'm no longer bound by their rules. The League never lost you. They have been tracking you since you left. There is no leaving the League. The only way you leave is by death." The woman ran at Izuku. Seeing it coming, Izuku dodged, but her sword managed to catch his cheek, cutting him. "It seems the rumors of your skill are true," said the woman. "Thanks, but you should really pay attention." Looking down, the woman saw Izuku pull out a pistol and fired. The woman watched as the bullet came out of the barrel, but she put up her hand and with her electricity she stopped the bullet in midair. However, this is what Izuku wanted. Seeing a chance, he got in a hard right hook to her kidney, causing her to jump back in pain. "Left yourself wide open there," Izuku taunted. Under her mask, the woman smiled. "All right, I think it's time this warm-up ends." With lightning surrounding her body, the woman disappeared and reappeared behind Izuku. With no time to react, Izuku was stabbed in the back with the lightning blade. "JHHH. I'm not done yet," she said, twisting the blade as she did. Lighting from the blade coursed through Izuku's body, shocking him. Izuku's body tensed up as the electricity coursed through his body. After a few seconds, the woman pulled the sword out and the electrocution stopped. He fell to the ground as smoke came out of his body. "Here, I thought you would be more of a challenge." Pity. The woman raised the sword. Bringing it down, Izuku waited for the blade to pierce him, but it never came. He managed to turn his head. Looking up, he saw that Uraraka came in flying, kicking the woman away from him. Uraraka. "Sorry, lady, but he has stuff he needs to answer for. So don't kill him just yet," Uraraka said as she stood in a fighting stance. The woman grunted as he held her ribs from the kick. "Walk away, hero, unless you want to die as well. I can tell you are no shape to fight." Uraraka narrowed her eyes. "You may be right, but I don't fight alone, not this time." Appearing behind her, Todoroki appeared, his left side full of flames. "Sorry it took me to get here, Uraraka." "It's fine, so do you still want to fight?" Uraraka asked. The woman stared at the two heroes. Of course. She threw a few shuriken at the two. Todoroki used his fire to melt the ones aimed at him, while Uraraka dodged the ones aimed at her. Rushing in, Uraraka went to punch the woman, while Todoroki supported her by creating ice underneath her to give her more speed. Jumping into the air, Uraraka went to kick the woman, but she dodged with ease. Predictable. That's when a sharp pillar of ice rose up from where Uraraka had jumped. What? The woman dodged at the last second, but the ice managed to cut her across the chest. "Damn you, I was careless." That's when Uraraka got behind her. "Checkmate." She tapped the woman on the back, which caused her to float in the air. The woman floated in the air, trying to stay upright. "We got her, now what?" asked Todoroki. "Now we wait for the others to come back, but first we need to get Viper to a hospital." Uraraka walked over Izuku. That's when the woman smiled. "Never turn back on your enemies," pointed a finger at Uraraka as sparks began to appear from her finger. "Uraraka, look out!" Todoroki yelled, creating an ice shield in front of Uraraka. The woman fired a charged electrical blast at Uraraka. The ice shield proved useless as the blast broke it on contact. The blast managed to catch Uraraka on the thigh, scratching her. "Damn," Uraraka said, falling to the floor. Todoroki looked at the woman and watched as she opened her palms, letting out electricity. Little known fact, this roof has a lot of metal. Raising her arms, the roof began to shake. Uraraka and Todoroki began to lose their footing. "We need to get off of this roof," Todoroki yelled, creating an ice slide. "You don't need to tell me twice." Uraraka ran over to Izuku, who was knocked out at this point, and with the help of her quirk she grabbed him and jumped from the roof. As they jumped off, the woman ripped the roof of the building and flung it into the air. The two heroes slid to another building. "She just ripped the roof like it was nothing," Uraraka said, putting down Izuku. From the smoke of the destroyed roof a voice was heard. "That was nothing. You should see when I'm serious." The woman appeared flying in the air with the help of a metal disc. "Who are you?" Uraraka asked. "That's none of your concern, but that should be the least of your problems," the woman said, taking out a coin from her pocket. "A coin? What are you going to do with that?" asked Todoroki. The woman flipped the coin into the air. "Just watch," pointing her hand at the two. The woman suddenly flicked the coin at them. As the coin left her hand, the coin itself turned into a red streak of energy with lightning surrounding it. Uraraka and Todoroki never saw it coming. They only saw the flash of what they thought was an explosion. Blinded by the light, they couldn't see, but they felt something grab them and pull them away just as the blast hit the building they were standing on, destroying it. As the white disappeared from their eyes, they saw who rescued them. "You guys shouldn't be here, especially you, Uravity." It was Lemillion. "Lemillion? How?" Uraraka asked. "I got a call from Bakugo. He said you needed some help," Lemillion said, standing in front of them. "Oh, what's this, another hero? Well, no matter. Hand over the Viper and you all can walk away," the woman said, landing on a roof. Just as Lemillion was about to respond, someone came roaring in. "Die." An explosion shook the air around them. Bakugo came in covered in bandages. "Take that." The woman created an electrical shield, but the explosion still caught her in the face. As the smoke cleared, the heroes saw that the mask that she had on came off. The woman had long brown hair and hazelnut-colored eyes. "Now we've done it," the woman said, wiping blood from her lip. As this was happening, Izuku began to wake up. "FCK, what happened?" he asked, looking around. Getting to his knees, Izuku noticed the blood on the floor. As he tried to stand up, he coughed out blood. "I need to get out of here." He noticed everyone was distracted by someone. As Izuku tried to crawl away, he noticed who they were being distracted by. His eyes went wide as he saw her long brown hair and hazelnut-colored eyes. "Misaka." Everyone stopped and turned to Izuku. "Misaka? It's you, isn't Misaka? Your face is slightly different, but I'd never forget you." "How are you alive?" he said as blood dripped from his open wound. The woman looked at Izuku as he got to his feet. "Misaka, it's me. Izuku, don't you remember me?" Izuku was almost in tears as he walked towards her. The woman said nothing. Misaka." Suddenly the crackle of electricity was heard. Izuku felt something warm hit his chest. Looking down, he saw the blood run down it. "Why?" Izuku fell forward as his eyes rolled back. The woman had fired off an electrical blast through Izuku. I don't know who this Misaka is, but it doesn't matter. My job is now done. The woman pulled out a small smoke bomb and threw it towards the heroes and made her escape. Where did she go? Bakugo said, looking around. Bakugo, not now. He's bleeding out. Uraraka yelled out, putting pressure on Izuku's chest wounds. Izuku's consciousness began to fade, and Misaka ... you're alive, is all he said before succumbing to blood loss. Izuku woke up in a dark void. He looked around and saw nothing but darkness. Where am I? Picking himself up, Izuku began to walk. He couldn't tell what direction he was going, but he was walking. Izuku, a voice called out to him. The voice seemed to be coming from every direction. Who said that? Izuku turned around on guard. Izuku, come out, whoever you are. Izuku yelled out. Suddenly a woman draped in white cloth appeared behind him. Sensing danger, Izuku turned and threw a punch, but all he did was punch the air. What? There was someone there. I know there was. That's when the woman dressed in white reappeared in front of Izuku, grabbing him. He tried to fight against her grip, but she proved to be too strong. Let me go. He couldn't see her face, but whoever this was, they knew what they were doing. That's when the woman looked up. Izuku's eyes went as she lifted her face. What are you? Staring back at him was a skull. Izuku, the skeleton, spoke. Izuku opened his mouth to talk, but no words came out. That's when the skeleton pointed to the ground. Looking down, Izuku saw that he was ankle deep in blood. Lifting his foot, the blood seemed to run up his legs. He tried to shake off the blood, but it wouldn't come off. Panicking, Izuku began to flail around. Nothing was working. The blood began to cover his chest, then his neck, and finally his face. Izuku once again saw nothing but darkness as he covered in blood. This time, however, Izuku opened his eyes to see the face of a man he killed, the warehouse boss. Izuku backed away, but then found that he had bumped into something. Looking back, he saw another body. Then one by one the bodies began to appear surrounding Izuku, each person whispering, "Leave me alone." He yelled out as the whispering began to get louder. Falling to his knees, Izuku covered his ears. "Stop. Leave me alone." Suddenly the bodies began to get disintegrated by a white light appearing from above. As the whispers faded, Izuku looked up to this white light and reached out for it. The light then turned into a human form and extended out a hand. Izuku grabbed it. He then felt the light pulling him up. Blinded by the light, Izuku put up his hand. "Are you an angel? That must mean I'm dead," he said as he was taken to the sky. The light had no face, but Izuku could tell it smiled. "Your time in this realm has not yet come. The living are not done with you yet." Izuku was confused by this, but before he could say anything, he saw someone he wanted to see for so long. Misaka appeared in front of him. Misaka. She smiled but said no words. Izuku tried to reach out for her, but his hand went through her almost like a ghost. Misaka shook her head. "Sadly, you cannot touch her," said the light. Izuku hovered his hand on Misaka's cheek. "Wait for me, will you?" he asked. Misaka smiled and nodded. Just the image of Misaka faded away. "She wasn't real, you know. This is all in your mind, Izuku," the white light said. Izuku turned puzzled. "It's time for you to wake up." The light from the person suddenly glowed brighter and brighter. That's when Izuku woke up in the real world. His eyes were barely open when he heard the clicking of guns. Looking around, Izuku saw 10 SWAT officers pointing their rifles at him. Izuku scanned the room. "Where am I?" he asked, but the words did not come out. Just then Aizawa, Nanomasa, and Uraraka, "Look who finally awoke," Nanomasa said, stopped at the edge of the bed. Izuku tried to move but found that he could move anything. Not even his voice was coming out. "You're probably wondering why you can't talk. Well, it's because one of these officers has a quirk that restricts a person's muscles," Aizawa said. "In a few moments they will deactivate their quirk and allow you to speak and move your head." Aizawa then raised a hand. "Do it." Izuku scanned the room to see who it was that had the quirk. "Thanks," Izuku said. That's when he noticed the guard third from left twitched slightly. "Oh, the guy who has the quirk is third on my left." He twitched slightly when he deactivated his quirk. Everyone in the room looked at Izuku almost impressed. "Enough, you took quite a bit of damage in your latest attempt to kill Jones," Nanomasa said, looking at the paralyzed Izuku. Izuku looked pissed. "Get on with the point, polygraph." "Your voice is irritating," Izuku said, his voice straining in pain. "Someone is cranky. Could it be that you are mad that the love of their life is alive and you want answers?" Uraraka said with her arms crossed. Izuku said nothing, but if looks could kill, he would have killed Uraraka right where she stood. "Looks like I'm right. That wasn't Misaka. Whoever that is, I'm going to make sure they pay for using her face," Izuku said, gritting his teeth. "Sorry to burst your bubble, but we got a sample of her blood. We put it into our database and it came back 99.99% match," said Nanomasa. Izuku's eyes widened. "And no, that can't be right. There has to be some mistake." "Do you honestly believe that's true?" Aizawa spoke up. "You came back to life, why couldn't she?" "Because the body needs to be intact in order for the pit to work. Misaka was cremated. There was nothing to bring back," explained Izuku. "Well, not that it matters anymore. She got away, and you are now in custody," Nanomasa said, taking out his clipboard. 275 counts of murder, 28 arson charges, evading police, vigilantism, and that is just in this ward. You've been all around Japan doing the same thing. My estimates you'll probably be executed for your crimes. Izuku stayed silent. Don't I get a lawyer? Aizawa scoffed. A lawyer won't do you any good with so many charges over your head. Suddenly the doctor walked in. All right everyone, please leave. It's time for me to check on my patient. The guards can stay but you three need to leave. Fine, but we are coming back after you are done, Aizawa said, walking out of the room. Izuku watched them leave but was surprised when Uraraka gave him a glare as they left the room. What's her problem? After checking him over, Izuku was deemed well enough to be moved to a cell. This time they made sure he wouldn't escape. They brought over one armored trunk from him with 3 guards with him at all times pointing their guns at him. Uraraka and Lemillion followed from above, jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Normally for a quirkless person they would send them to a regular prison, but since it was Viper they were dealing with, they decided that they would take him to Tartarus, a supermax prison that held Japan's worst criminals. Izuku sat in silence in the truck as the ride would take hours. He decided to meditate all the while the guns pointed at him. Finally arriving, Izuku was escorted out tied up in a special metal chain. Isn't this a bit much? He asked, lifting his hand. Not when it comes to you. You kill hundreds of people, one of the guards said. You do know they were all drug dealers, right? The guards said nothing. Fine, I'm just saying I cleaned up this place more than any of you ever had. As they arrived at the prison, Izuku was escorted past a cell labeled AFO. As he walked by he heard a voice in his head call out to him, "So you've come at last, Izuku Midoriya. I've been expecting you." Not wanting to raise any alarm, he talked in his mind. Who are you and how do you know my name? I know a lot of things, Izuku Midoriya, the voice said, slightly laughing. Oh really? Tell me something I don't know then. Very well. I know what happened to that girl you liked. What was her name again? Ah yes, Misaka. Izuku stopped when he heard Misaka's name. The guard following shoved him with the end of this gun. Keep walking unless you want me to put a bullet in you. Izuku kept walking. Tell me. Izuku could almost see this person waving his finger. Test. Information is not free, you should know this. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he was put into his cell. What do you want? That's more like it. It's actually quite simple. I just wish to speak to you. I hear you are a skilled assassin. I'm not some hired gun, so if you want to talk, then talk, Izuku said, sitting down on his bed. No, not this way. We shall speak face to face. Alright, I'll humor you. Let's talk, just tell me when and how to get there, Izuku said, dropping to the floor to do some push-ups. Tonight, the door to your cell will open. When it does, I will give you instructions. Izuku smiled. I thought my time here will be boring, but this is turning out to be better than I hoped. With Jones. Well, Mr. Jones, the threat of Viper is done and over with. He won't be able to hurt you anymore, Lemillion said, standing at the door with Uraraka and Aizawa. Yes, well, thank you for all your help. However, it seems it was thanks to my new bodyguard that you were able to arrest this Viper, Jones said, pointing at the electric princess. Uraraka looked at her. She kinda does look like me, ... So this is Misaka. Yes, while we are thankful for her help, we need her to come with us for questioning, Aizawa said. But whatever for, she did nothing wrong. She was simply doing her job, just the same as you three, Jones said, smiling. Be that as it may, we have reason to believe that she was involved with Viper, Uraraka said, walking closer to Jones' desk. This caused Princess to put up her guard. Jones simply put up his hand and motioned her to stop, which she did. Viper said he was connected with that girl long ago. We got a DNA sample from the fight and determined that she was pronounced dead over 1 year ago. Uraraka put her hands on the desk. So we got some questions. Jones eyed Uraraka before turning around with his chair. Unless she's done something illegal, I suggest you all leave. Just then Aizawa tapped Uraraka on the shoulder. Come on, Uraraka, we have to go. Our work here is done. Reluctantly she turned to leave, but not before she glanced at the princess. This isn't over, Jones, you can count on that. As the door slammed, the princess turned to Jones. Do I go after them, sir? No, let them leave ... For now. However, that Uravity girl will prove to be a problem in the future. We may have to deal with her sooner or later, Jones said. Just give me the word, sir, and it shall be done, the princess said. Not yet, soon, very soon. So how does it feel to see your former lover again? Asked Jones. Misaka stayed silent. I was never in love him. I was playing with him the entire time. Tartarus prison. Izuku wasn't allowed to leave his cell until his court date was set, so they brought his food to his cell. It was a plain prison plate. Fried rice and grilled fish with a bit of miso soup. After finishing his meal, it was now time to sleep. As he went to bed, the door to his cell suddenly opened up. Then the voice in his head returned. Come, we have much to discuss. The voice gave him instruction, to which Izuku followed to the bone. Finally, Izuku stood before a giant metal door. The door suddenly opened up, and in the room was a sort of coffin thing with a bunch of tubes and wires coming out of it. Izuku walked closer. Ah, you are finally here. As he got closer, Izuku began to see something resembling a face sticking out of the coffin-looking thing. Who are you? Izuku asked, standing right in front of this person. I went by many names back in the day: Vandal, Savage, Apocalypse. But now people call me all for one. AFO face was completely distorted, only his smile was seen. I remember you. Yeah, you're the villain All Might fought so many years ago, Izuku said. Yes, that is me. Now I do believe we had something to discuss, AFO said, smiling. Yes, I believe we did. Now tell me what happened to Misaka, Izuku asked. To understand that, let me ask you this. What do you know of her childhood? AFO asked. Not much, only that her family abandoned her when she was just born, Izuku explained. I see, then you know almost nothing. The truth is that she is the daughter of the world's greatest assassin, daughter of the demon. From birth she was trained for one thing and one thing only, to kill. That is until the League found you. That's when her mission changed, AFO said. Izuku's eyes widened. Wait, how do you know about the League? And no, that can't be right. Wait, mission? What mission? You see, I was once an associate of the League before I bought my freedom and started a new life here in Japan. As for her mission, well, it was to kill you. What? Misaka was going to kill me. Izuku couldn't believe it. You thought that once you left they couldn't track you, but the League never lost sight of you, Izuku Midoriya. They were only watching and waiting for you to come back to them. Or if that failed, kill you if they had to. And who do you think they sent to do the job? AFO said, smiling evilly. And no, that can't be right. Misaka working with the League, that's just not possible. You're lying, Izuku yelled at AFO. That time I've spent with her couldn't have been a lie. Oh, but it was ... What pains me the most to tell you is that she didn't die that day. Izuku looked at OFA with tears in his eyes. No, rather that was a ruse to force you back into the League. They assumed with nothing left to tie you to the outside world you would come back. However, they were wrong, and now you are nothing more than a liability to them. You know too much. They will come to kill you, or rather she will, AFO said, taunting Izuku. Izuku was furious. Getting up, he grabbed AFO by the face and began to squeeze. You lie. I loved Misaka and she loved me. There's no way she could have done this. Suddenly AFO began to laugh. How naive. The concept of love was nothing but a show for her, a trick, and you fell for her hard. Liar. Izuku's eyes burned with rage as he squeezed harder. What's stopping me from crushing your head like a bug? I can give you closure. Izuku stopped squeezing. What do you mean? He said, letting go of AFO. I'll be frank with you. The League has been a thorn in my side for years and I want them gone. Why don't we work together and fight them together? Once you take your revenge on those who have wronged you, I want to establish a sort of partnership. Leave my subordinates on the outside alone and we in turn will leave you alone. And as an added bonus, I'll set you free. Izuku considered the deal. I need a few days to think on this. Of course, take as much time as you need. I will be here waiting, AFO said. Izuku left. And about 6 weeks later, Izuku was being taken in for interrogation. So you are the villain, vigilante known as Viper Officer, Naomasa said, sitting across a metal table. The one and only, Izuku said, his chains rattling as he moved. So I am here to ask you a few questions. Is that all right with you? Naomasa said, taking out a tape recorder. Fine, not like I have much of a choice anyway, Izuku said, slumping on his chair. Let's get started. Are you aware that you killed hundreds of people? Depending on your definition of people, I only killed animals, drug dealers, rapists, and other violent criminals, Izuku said. I see. Do you even know how many you've killed? Never mind, moving on. Naomasa said, writing everything down. Next question. Who is Makoto Misaka to you? Izuku stiffened when he heard her name. Old girlfriend, although I'm not so sure anymore. Interesting. So you are capable of love. You are a serial killer. You once said you were trained by assassins. What did they teach you? A lot of things. Espionage tactics, military strategies. The list goes on, but the thing they drilled into me was how to kill, he said with his expressionless eyes. Do you enjoy killing? A simple question, but Izuku had a hard time answering. I rephrase it. If you had a choice to kill someone or let them live, what would you choose? Izuku looked down. I don't enjoy killing, not one bit. Ever since I was young, it's all I've known, he chuckled. You know, it's funny. You ask if I enjoy killing, but you want to know something. I remember the faces and names of every person I've killed. Yes, they all deserved it, but they stick with you. I thought after I did it enough times it would become easier. But I was wrong. Each kill was another on my soul, another one that I took for my revenge. What exactly is your revenge? Naomasa asked. My revenge was to kill the ones responsible that hurt my Misaka, but none of that matters now. She's alive and my revenge meant nothing, Izuku said, looking down at his chains. Why Jones? Asked Naomasa. He's the one running the whole show. He supplies each factory with the necessary things they need to make nuke, Izuku said. Do you have any proof of this? Naomasa asked as he stopped writing. Izuku caught on. You think he's behind the nuke as well, don't you? Naomasa said nothing, which only confirmed what Izuku was thinking. If you guys know, why haven't you done anything? Do you have any idea how many people you've all let die? You heroes are so useless. While you are all too high up your own asses, people are dying. At least I was getting rid of the problem. You heroes only made it worse by ignoring it, he said, slamming his fists on the metal table. Naomasa looked down at his notepad. There are rules the heroes have to follow. But he was cut off by Izuku. And while they follow those stupid rules, people are dying. We are not here to discuss that right now. We are here to discuss you. Now let's get back to the questions, said Naomasa. No, said Izuku. Excuse me. Izuku leaned in. I said no. You can forget about me answering any more questions. You know what? I'm done with this place in general. Suddenly a voice was heard over the intercom. Careful, he's trying something. The voice of Aizawa was heard. So you're here, Eraserhead. I'm guessing either Uravity or Lemillion is behind that glass as well. Doesn't matter, I'm gone. All for one, get me out of here. Izuku yelled out. In his secure cell, AFO smiled. As you wish. Back in the interrogation room, a black mist portal opened up behind Izuku. Leaning back, Izuku fell back into the portal. Tell Jones and Misaka I'll see them real soon. Just then Uraraka and Aizawa busted through the door. Izuku, wait. Uraraka tried to call out for him, but it was too late. Izuku was gone. Since when does Izuku work with the League of Villains? Aizawa yelled out in frustration. He should be. Unless. No. Naomasa started to think. He's here. AFO is here. He must have talked to Viper somehow. Great, the world's deadliest assassin is now working with the League of Villains, Uraraka said, slamming her fist against the wall. Let's not give up hope yet, you two. Remember, we still have Lemillion on our side. He defeated him once, he can do it again, Naomasa said. That's not what has me worried. Viper is trained to find weaknesses in his opponents. Now that he fought us twice, I really believe he now knows us better than we know ourselves when it comes to fighting, Aizawa said, sweating. But Lemillion doesn't have any weaknesses, does he? Uraraka asked. Aizawa nodded. He has ... and I pray Viper doesn't tell the villains. Call Lemillion and have him meet us at UA. There's going to a war with the villains soon. All that Izuku could see was black when he fell back into the portal. After a second, Izuku could feel he was falling. Repositioning himself, he slammed into the ground chair first, shattering it. Getting up, Izuku looked around and noticed he was in a warehouse that was poorly lit. What the? Seems kinda shabby for a place meant for villains, he said, breaking the chains from his wrists. Izuku began to walk around to look for an exit, since the warehouse was poorly lit and only a few patches of light pierced the darkness. Noticing a door, he began to walk towards it. Just as he was about to turn the knob, he stopped and dodged to his right. As he did, 3 knives hit the door. Turning around, Izuku saw the gleam of a knife. Thinking fast, Izuku reached out and grabbed the wrist of whoever this was. Pulling them down, Izuku slammed them to the ground. Jumping into the air, Izuku twisted their arm back. His knee slammed against the person's back, causing them to let go of the knife. Izuku grabbed the knife and was about to stab the person in the back of the head, but stopped when he felt a barrel of a gun on his head. That's enough, a male voice said. You know, I really wouldn't press a gun to my head right now. I'm a little ticked off right now, Izuku said. I don't care. Let her go, the voice said, pressing the gun. Izuku stood up with his hands in the air. Turning around, he found a man wearing a half-black and half-white mask. You couldn't do that earlier twice, asked the woman, getting up. My bad, Toga. Actually, no, I'm not. It's your fault for getting caught twice, said, looking past Izuku. Yeah, so is this the guy? She asked, looking at Izuku. He doesn't look like much. If Master says he's good, then he's good, said a voice coming out of the darkness. Just how good is something we have to see. Izuku Midoriya, I presume. Shigaraki said, walking towards Izuku. That's right. Let's see if memory serves me right. You are the League of Villains, said Izuku. That's right. Now Master seems to have struck a deal with you, but honestly that doesn't mean anything. Right now your life is in my hands, literally, Shigaraki said. Izuku sighed. You mean with that empty gun? Empty. It's not empty, Twice said, looking down the barrel of the gun. That's when Izuku kicked his hand, knocking the gun out of Twice's hand. As it was in the air, Izuku jumped up and grabbed it. Landing behind Shigaraki, he pressed it against his back. Weak all of you, Izuku said. Toga and Twice were about to move in when Shigaraki held up his hand. Not bad. It seems your fight with Uravity and her little friends wasn't just a fluke. Shut up. The deal with All for One is that you'd help me take down Jones, and in return I leave you alone. Honestly, you are all pieces of SHT, so I feel really strongly about killing you all right here, right now, but a deal is a deal. Are you going to help me or not? Izuku said, his finger on the trigger. Shigaraki then turned around to face Izuku, and with a quick jolt he grabbed the gun. Very well, but try anything like this again and you'll be nothing but a pile of ashes. Suddenly the gun began to turn to ash in Izuku's hand. Just like that gun. Izuku smiled. You can try, but let's see you try that with someone who fights back. From behind Shigaraki, Toga was in awe at what Izuku just did. Did you see that? Twice? He was like a ninja. I didn't even see him move. I want his blood, she said, licking her lips. No, I want him. So what do you need? We can get you almost anything. Just say what you need, Shigaraki said, turning away. I only need a few things. A place to rest. I'm not at 100% yet, so I need to rest for at least a week. Next is a sword. The best quality you can find, and make it sharp. Also, if we are going to work together, I need to know what quirks you have. That includes the ones from the people outside and one on the roof, who both are ready to attack, Izuku said, pointing to the roof. Shigaraki smiled. Clever. All right, we will help you. However, only this once. After that you leave us alone. We have big plans anyway. Izuku nodded. Whatever, I don't care what plans you guys have. All I want is Jones dead. Izuku was given an apartment near the hideout and a katana that was forged around 500 years ago. After inspecting it, Izuku noticed the engravings were from the League of Assassins. I swear once I'm done with Jones I'm coming for you, go. Yue. Aizawa called another meeting the next day, so Viper escaped, and we have reason to believe he is working with the League of Villains, Aizawa said, turning to the group. If not handled correctly, this situation can go from bad to worse. If Izuku gives any information our weaknesses out to the League, let's just say what happened after my retirement would look like child's play, All Might said, hanging his head. What can he possibly know after only one fight? Asked Momo. A lot. Patterns, weaknesses. He can even find psychological weaknesses if given enough time. Remember, he actually managed to harm Lemillion in the first battle. All he has to do is change his tactics and he could take him down, Aizawa said, frustrated. The heroes looked on in horror. So where do we go from here? Bakugo asked. We prepare. For now, stick together. No one goes on patrol by themselves. Teams of 2 at the minimum. The League of Villains are planning something and I want to know what. I have some old friends from my underground days. They can get me some information, said Aizawa. Everyone nodded. Sir, what about Jones? Before Viper escaped, he said that he would see Jones and Misaka soon. I think he's going to try to kill Jones again, said Uraraka. Aizawa sighed. Jones is no longer any of our concern. Uraraka didn't understand. What do you mean no longer our concern? He attacked us. I think that warrants us a bit of concern. Jones made it clear to us that he doesn't want any hero around him or his building again. So as of now, we are only to capture Viper if and only if he is outside of the building, Aizawa said, turning away. But Uraraka stood up, but Bakugo stopped her before she could say anything else. Fine, I understand, she said, sitting back down. All right, with that we are done for today. Make sure to stay together and watch each other's backs. But most important, stay safe, All Might said, dismissing everyone. Uraraka was about to leave when Bakugo pulled her aside. Hey, do you mind if we talk? He said. Sure. They walked into an empty conference room. So what do you want to talk about? She asked, unsure of what he wanted to talk about. It's about Deku. And Izuku. When you fought him, did he still have any humanity still in him? Bakugo asked. Uraraka thought back to her fight with Izuku. I don't remember much of that fight, only bits and pieces, but I do remember one thing clearly. His eyes during that fight were cold and empty, but there was also a bit of light in his eyes. It was dim, but it was there. I think what's clouding it is his hate for Jones. Bakugo looked down at the floor. I see. So this really was all my fault. Uraraka looked at him with sadness filling her face. What Izuku has done is not your fault, Bakugo. Bakugo snapped. Yes, it is. If I didn't pick on him back in middle school, none of this would have happened. Uraraka said nothing as Bakugo slammed his fist against the desk. Bakugo, look, you blame yourself, so do something to help him. Bring him in and we can get him the help he needs. Whether he wants to or not is another question, but I get the feeling he won't rest until Jones is dead. I see, so I guess it's time I go visit her, said Bakugo. Her? Who's her? Uraraka asked. Bakugo sighed. His mother. Oh, that's great. Maybe we can get her to talk some sense back into him, Uraraka said, hopeful, but that quickly changed when she looked over at Bakugo. His face was so filled with shame. What's wrong? As she absolutely hates me. She blames me for Izuku's death, Bakugo said. I see. Wait, why didn't anyone tell her Izuku was still alive? Bakugo shrugged. All right, we need to go tell her and you are going with me. Bakugo's eyes went wide. I can't. Didn't you hear what I just said? That doesn't matter. If you really feel bad, you have to go. Besides, I'll be there, she said. Bakugo reluctantly agreed. Later at Izuku Midoriya's apartment. Get out, a woman's voice said as the door was slammed on Uraraka and Bakugo. Uraraka stood stunned. The woman only saw Bakugo. I thought you were over-exaggerating, but she really does hate you. I knew this was a bad idea. Let's just go, Bakugo said, defeated. Wait, let me try one more time, Uraraka said, knocking once again. Miss Midoriya, I know you don't like Bakugo, but please, I have something important I need to tell you. Please just give us a chance. It's about Izuku Midoriya. Your son, Uraraka said, speaking to the door. Seconds passed and still the door didn't move. Let's just go, Uraraka. She's not going to open that door, Bakugo said, trying to convince her to leave. Uraraka sighed. I understand, we'll be going now. Sorry to disturb you, she said, turning away. Just as they were about to walk away, the door opened. Wait, they turned around to see a short, green-haired woman standing there with the door partly open. You can come in, Enko said, pointing at Uraraka. But he stays out here. Bakugo looked away. All right, deal. Bakugo, stay out here for a bit, Uraraka said, walking into the apartment. As she walked in, Uraraka looked at the pictures on the walls. They were of Izuku when he was a baby. Sit, Enko said, pointing at an empty chair at the table. Uraraka quickly took a seat. So why are you here? You said something about my son, but he's been dead for years. What could you possibly tell me after all this time? Inko said, sitting across from her. Taking a deep breath, Uraraka steadied her nerves. Well, ma'am, you may find what I'm about to say hard to believe, but your son is alive. Inko's face turned sour. If you are here just to say bullshit, then you can leave. I saw his body and he was dead. That man outside was the one who killed him. And no, ma'am, it's the truth. Here, take a look at these, Uraraka said, sliding over a file. These are DNA results from your son. The top one was from years ago. The bottom was from just a few days ago. Inko scanned through the papers. This is all lies, she said, throwing them back across the table. I assure you that these are all real. Your son is alive. Inko looked over at the photo of Izuku on the wall. Damn, after all these years, the days I spent crying, the nights I spent mourning, you're telling me they were all for nothing? Uraraka looked away. Since when have you heroes known about this? A couple of weeks now, said Uraraka. You mean to tell me that you heroes knew about my son's reappearance and didn't bother to tell me? Inko said, turning back to Uraraka. There's a good reason for that. It seems Izuku has come back for revenge. We had him in custody at one point. In his own words, he said that the reason he came back was to kill Jones, Uraraka explained. Inko's eyes went wide. That doesn't sound like my son. He was a good, gentle kid who never hurt anyone in his life. After his apparent death, Izuku claims he was taken in by an organization that trained him to become a killer. He eventually escaped and started a new life, but that's when tragedy struck. His girlfriend at the time died of a drug overdose, and Izuku blames Jones for her death, Uraraka explained. Izuku has now been on a murder spree, killing anyone that is connected with Jones. He's also destroyed several buildings and vehicles. We managed to capture him, but he unfortunately escaped with the help of other villains, she continued to explain. It sounds to me like he will stop at nothing to kill this Jones guy, Inko said, looking at Uraraka. Hopefully not nothing. Uraraka handed Inko a cell phone. Take this. It's a phone that has one number, my own. When you hear this phone rings, it means I'm either fighting him or have captured him. I would like you to talk to him. I won't lie to you, Inko. Izuku scares me and many believe he's too far gone, but I don't. I fought against him and I saw a glimmer of hope. If he could just talk to you, then I'm sure he would come back. Inko looked at the phone. All right, but I want you to promise me one thing, she said, grabbing the phone. Uraraka nodded. Anything. Bring him back to me alive. I don't want to lose him again, Inko said as a tear fell down her face. I promise you, Inko, I will bring him back alive, Uraraka said with a smile. 1 week later, Izuku had been quiet for most of the week. He spent his days training and recovering with the other League of Villains members. All the while, Izuku was taking mental notes of everyone, looking at their strengths and, most important, their weaknesses. They proved to be no challenge when it came to hand-to-hand combat, but there was Toga. She lacked discipline, but her techniques were good. Her acrobatic skills and use of a knife made her someone to be wary of. When it came to quirks, Shigaraki had the most powerful. Making stuff turn to ash in an instant made him dangerous, but he relies too much on his quirk and therefore his physical condition is adequate at best. Dabai, he can conjure blue flames from the palms of his hands. He's powerful, no doubt, but it seems his body can't take the temperature and his flames actually damage his body. If he ever learns how to overcome this, then he will become someone to keep on my radar. Then there was Kurogiri, a well-managed man whose quirk allows him and others to teleport anywhere. Useful when it comes to infiltrating. I have to find out if there are limitations on who, what, and distance he can teleport. His quirk allows him to be immune to most attacks, but he must have a body somewhere. There are many other members, but they didn't matter to Izuku. Now that he was fully healed, it was time to kill Jones. Walking into the planning room, Izuku saw the core members of the League. We've been waiting for you, Shigaraki said, more annoyed than anything. Thanks to the last-minute information you got, I was making some last-minute changes to the plan. Now listen, this is the plan. Izuku explained the plan in detail. He gave everyone in the room a role. The League of Villains were surprised. The roles they were given were specifically tailored to their strengths and weaknesses. It even had plans if the heroes showed up. So does everyone understand their roles? Izuku asked. No one said anything. Good, Jones will be in his office all day today. I know striking at broad daylight is risky, but it also gives us the element of surprise. The last times I've tried was during the late hours or the dead of night. They will be expecting something similar. Stick to your roles and we all get back in one piece and I get what I want. However, you are not to touch her, Izuku said, pointing at a picture of Misaka. Disobey and I will kill you on the spot. From the info we gathered and from WHSY you've told us, she seems like she can be a threat. Are you sure we can just let her go? Asked Dabai. Leave her to me. If she attacks one of you, run. You won't stand a chance against her, Izuku warned them. All right, whatever you say, Shigaraki said. Remember, after this we are done. You stay out of our way. Izuku nodded. As long as you never cross me, I won't come for you. Just then Kurogiri leaned in and whispered something to Shigaraki. I'll be right back. Shigaraki walked out of the planning room. Well, there you it. We leave in 1 hour, so be ready, Izuku said, walking out of the room himself. Walking down the corridor, he heard the voice of Shigaraki. Why did you bring her here? Shigaraki asked. I wanted to show you what she can do and show you this, a muffled voice said. Are those what I think they are? Shigaraki said, surprised. Yes, I am giving you 5 for you to use as you please, but know that I can only make so much. The amount of money and time they take to make is almost not worth it. Lucky for us, she is the source of it all, the voice said. Suddenly the whelp of a young girl was heard. Good, very good. With these we can accelerate our plans. Izuku then heard a struggle, then the door to the room exploded open. Izuku was surprised to see a young girl, maybe about 11 or 12 years old, wearing a white gown as she ran towards him with bandages covering her arms and legs. She wasn't paying attention when she bumped into Izuku. She fell back on the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, are you all right? Izuku asked the girl. He reached out to pick her up. But to Izuku's surprise, she began to cry in fear as his hand got closer. Izuku stopped. Did the fall really hurt that much? He said, patting her head. The girl jerked up. Her eyes were so filled with despair. Izuku knew those eyes well, for he too had them while he was training with the League of Assassins. I'm not going to hurt you, okay? He said, lowering his voice. The girl sniffled and nodded. Come on, let's get you up, he said, extending a hand to help her up. The girl hesitated at first but eventually grabbed his hand. That's better, so can you tell me your name? My name is Izuku. And my name is Uri, she said, her voice trembling. Uri, that's a nice name. So what are you doing here? He asked, but before she could answer, a tall man wearing a witch doctor mask walked out the room. Uri ran out. Uri, come here, he said, stomping his way towards her. Uri hid behind Izuku. The man stopped in front of Izuku. Move or else. Izuku's face turned cold. I'm sorry. Who the hell are you to order me around? The name is Chisaki, also known as Overhaul. Now get out of my way, if you know what's good for you, Chisaki said, removing one of his gloves. Izuku began to reach behind him to pull out a dagger he was hiding. Never heard of you, but you just pissed me off. That is something you are going to regret. Faster than Chisaki could react, Izuku got behind him and pulled out the dagger, ready to slice him across the face. Turning around, Chisaki slammed his hand against the floor, breaking it apart before reshaping the broken pieces into spikes that flew towards Izuku. Izuku saw them coming and dodged out of the way. Now above Chisaki, he threw the dagger at him. The dagger stabbed Chisaki in the shoulder, throwing his body down. Izuku landed on the dagger. It pushed deeper into Chisaki's shoulder. Landing back next to Uri, he smiled. Come now, is that the best you got? Izuku said, mocking him. Chisaki gritted his teeth. Why, you bastard? Suddenly the room began to rumble. Izuku looked around, surprised. I'll make you pay for what you did. Just as he was about to attack, Uri jumped in front of Izuku, holding out her hands. Don't hurt him, she said, shaking. The room stopped rumbling. Come here and I may let him live, said Chisaki. Uri looked back at Izuku, then back to Overhaul. Okay, Uri quickly made her way towards him. Izuku stood shocked. Why would she do that? To save him? That's a good girl. Now as for you, I think we will settle our differences another day, Overhaul said, turning to leave. Izuku watched them leave. As they did, Uri looked back one final time with tears in her eyes. Izuku wanted to jump in to kill Overhaul, but he knew Uri would be caught in the crossfire. Her eyes, they were like mine back then. I promise you, Uri, I will save you from him, just wait a bit longer. What happened to me will not happen to another. 1 hour later, the plan was now in motion. First up was Dabim. His part was to cause as much commotion as he could outside the building. Next was Toga. She would use her quirk to transform herself into one of the floor guards to sneak in. Once inside, she would go into the security room. We got a situation outside, Toga said as one of the guards. While most of the guards would go to investigate, 2 would be monitoring everything from the room. Toga's job was to take them out. Hey, why are you still here? Shouldn't you be out there with the others? One of the guards said. Toga smiled and grabbing both of their heads, she slammed them into each other, knocking them out. All right, Izuku, I'm in, she said, speaking to an earpiece she had on. Good. Now disable the cameras on the second floor, Izuku instructed over the radio. Pressing a few buttons, the video feed of floor 2 went down. You're all clear. Kurogiri then opened a portal to the second floor and out walked Izuku and Shigaraki. We are in. Toga, where are Jones and Misaka? They are on the top floor. Misaka is guarding the door and Jones is sitting at his desk, Toga said, looking at the cameras. Good. Izuku turned to Shigaraki. Ready? Let's do this. Izuku kneeled down and as Shigaraki ran towards him, jumping, Izuku boosted Shigaraki up. With his hand exposed, Shigaraki turned the ceiling to dust. Floor after floor, they continued this pattern until they reached the floor just below Jones's office. Once we are in, have Kurogiri teleport you out. I won't be able to do my thing with you in the way. Harsh, but whatever. Listen, once this is done, I have a proposition for you, Shigaraki said. I'll listen to it once we are out of here. For now, let's get that ceiling open, Izuku said, throwing an explosive on the roof near the door. Shigaraki nodded. Jones was at his desk on the phone. What's the situation looking like? He asked. Everything is under control, sir. The disturbance is outside. The heroes are on the way, and our team is standing at the door ready if they come in. Just then Misaka could feel something was off. Sir, check the security cameras. Why? Everything is under control, Jones said. Just as he was going to check the cameras, the floor in the middle of the room began to turn gray. Misaka pulled out her sword, but before anything could happen, an explosion erupted underneath her. Her eyes widened as she fell through the hole the explosion caused. That's when Izuku jumped through the gray ash floor. He landed just feet away from Jones. Izuku glared at Jones as he sat on his chair, stunned that Izuku was here. We finally meet, Jones, he said, walking towards him with his sword drawn. So you are the infamous Viper, Jones said, standing up. You're nothing like the rumors. I expected more, if I'm being honest. So have you come to kill me? That's right. You are finally going to pay for all those lives you ruined. That includes mine, Izuku said, now standing in front of the desk. Ah yes, the girl, but from the looks of it she is alive and well. So you have no real reason for killing me, Jones said, staring at Izuku. Izuku's gaze wavered for a second. Those were all lies. She never loved me. Is that what you think? Then why hasn't she killed you yet? Jones said, motioning behind Izuku. Turning around, Izuku saw Misaka pointing a sword at him. She was there since you walked towards me. She could have killed you multiple times before you even got to my desk. And Misaka, tell me, did you just play with my emotions or did you ever actually love me? Asked Izuku. Misaka closed her eyes. Answer him honestly, dear. There is no point in lying now, Jones said. The truth is I did love you. For the first time in my life I felt what love was. But I also knew I had a mission, and the mission always came first, Misaka said. What about now? Do you still love me now? If you do, we can leave. Find a place far away from the League, Izuku said, almost pleading with her. Misaka stared at Izuku. Silence filled the room, but Misaka already had her mind made up. Reaching into her pocket, she grabbed a throwing star and threw it at Izuku. With his free arm, Izuku caught the star with his bare hands. Throwing it aside, Izuku readied for a fight. Looking up, he saw Misaka running at him, sword in hand. Both fighters clashed in the middle, their swords hitting against each other as they pushed. So this is your answer? Fine. You've erased all semblance of love I had for you. You will no longer be my past lover. You are now my enemy, Izuku said, sliding his sword back, causing Misaka to trip. As she tried to recover, Izuku came in with a hard hit to her stomach. Misaka jumped back, holding onto her stomach. So you've finally decided to fight me seriously. Alright, I invoke League Code 34. A duel, we each get one strike and no quirks. As a member of the League you have to accept, so let's do this. I no longer follow the League's code, Izuku said, gripping his blade. However, this would be the perfect opportunity to get rid of you once and for all. Alright, I accept. On the count of 3. Each turned around and began to walk to the ends of the room. Jones looked on from his desk, his hand on his chin. Both fighters were now ready. 1. Point 2. Point 3. Turning around, they both raised their swords and began to run towards each other. A unique sound of flesh being cut by a sword was heard throughout the room. Both stood still. Suddenly Izuku fell to his knees as blood began to pour from his arm. Why, you are good, Misaka, but unfortunately for you, I'm better. Jones watched as Misaka spit out blood as she fell to the floor with a large cut across her chest. As so it may seem. Well, Izuku, I may have failed to bring you in, but there will be others. Remember that, she said, closing her eyes. I will. Izuku, with the help of his sword, managed to push himself up. Now then, where were we? He said, turning once again to Jones. Jones had a look of horror as he watched Izuku walk towards him. This time no one would get in his way. Stop. You think you can do this to me? He yelled out. To Jones, Izuku appeared to disappear from view only to suddenly reappear in front of him. Quickly pulling out a kunai, Izuku stabbed into Jones's chest. Hurts, doesn't it? Good, it should. This is nothing compared to the hearts you've broken, he said, pushing the kunai deeper. Jones yelled out in pain, Be bastard. I will make you pay for this. Izuku gripped his sword and swung. Suddenly 4 thumps were heard. Looking down, Jones saw 4 of his fingers on the floor. Izuku has sliced them off. Most screams of anguish were heard. My fingers. My FC-Ken fingers. Jones yelled out as blood squirted out from his now detached fingers. Shut up. You're giving me a headache, Izuku said, covering his ears. Tears ran down Jones's face as his breathing became heavy and fast. Now I think it's time to finish this. Grabbing Jones by the neck, Izuku walked towards the glass window. Slamming his head against the glass, he cracked some of it. What are you going to do? Jones asked. Do you know how tall your building is? Izuku asked. I do. It's about 100 floors. Just the height for you to reach terminal velocity. Pulling him back, Izuku slammed Jones in the glass hard, making more cracks appear on the glass. Over and over again, Izuku would slam his head until finally he broke the window itself. With his hand around Jones's neck, Izuku held him over the edge. And no, please, I beg you, have mercy. Mercy? Did you have mercy for those you've killed? Do you know how many people that drug killed? You don't deserve any mercy. Izuku then stabbed Jones in the stomach as he held him over the edge. "Farewell, Jones. I'll see you in hell." Izuku pulled the sword out, then let go of Jones. "NOOO," he yelled out as he fell to his death. Jones hit the floor dead. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. It was done. "It's over. It's finally over." Kurogiri, pick everyone up. "We are done here," Izuku said. Suddenly a helicopter appeared. "Izuku Midoriya, stand down. You are under arrest for the murder of Jones. Fail to comply and we will open fire," the helicopter's loudspeaker said. From the door, 2 armed officers pointed their rifles at Izuku. Izuku just smiled. "How about no?" To the surprise of the pilots, Izuku jumped out the broken window. Spreading his arms and legs, Izuku created drag to slow down his fall. When he got far down enough, he used his sword to stab into the building, slowing his fall. However, the helicopter quickly caught up to him and began to open fire. With no cover, Izuku decided to throw his sword at the engine under the rotor. The engine exploded, causing the helicopter to spin out of control. Now, without his sword, Izuku began to free fall. "Kurogiri, I need that teleport. Now would be nice." "Izuku," a voice called out to him. Twisting his body, Izuku saw Bakugo and Uraraka racing across the rooftops. "Well, aren't you both a sight for sore eyes? But it's too late. I've done what I came here to do. May we never meet again," Izuku said, smiling. "Don't think so," a voice said, coming from the building. Looking back, Izuku saw the face of Lemillion popping out of the building. "California Smash," he yelled out as a fist came flying at Izuku. Putting his arms up to block, Izuku was sent flying farther away from the building. Izuku felt his bones crack. "Damn it, you are so annoying." Reaching into his pocket, Izuku pulled out what appeared to be a small firecracker. Breaking it in his hands, a blinding white light engulfed the area around Izuku. This in turn blinded Lemillion for a second. But a second is all Izuku needed to grab his face and pull the rest of his body out. "You think you are invincible with that quirk, but let's see if you can fly," Izuku said, throwing him down. While in midair, Bakugo came in, grabbing Izuku by the arm, and with the help of his explosions, he threw him to a nearby roof. Izuku rolled to a stop. "Man, couldn't you be more gentle?" Izuku said, picking himself up. "This all ends today, Izuku. Everything. I know IFC Ket up. I know I made your life a living hell, but I want to do the right thing now." Bakugo held out a hand. "Let me help you. I can get you the help you need." Izuku shook his head. "No. Sorry, but no. I chose my path, and now that I completed my task, it's time for me to leave." "You feel guilty for what happened to me. Good, you should. Live knowing that you helped create a monster." Bakugo looked down at the ground. That's when Uraraka landed on the roof with them. "It's too late, Uraraka. He's gone, and there is only one thing left to do." Bakugo raised his palms. "Bakugo, don't. Remember, I promised I would bring him back alive," Uraraka said, yelling at Bakugo. "She wouldn't want to see him like this. The only thing I can do is make sure she never sees him like this," said Bakugo. "I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it's time for me to leave." Kurogiri. Suddenly a portal opened up behind Izuku. However, before he could walk through it, Izuku was suddenly grabbed by black whips that began to wrap around his body. "Not this time," a voice said. Looking up, Uraraka saw Lemillion floating in the air. "Another quirk. So you have more? You are just full of surprises, but unlucky for you, so am I." Izuku struggled against the whips as he reached for his chest. Managing to reach, he pressed a button. Suddenly a high-pitched device activated, causing the heroes to reel back in pain. The black whips began to disappear. Breaking free, Izuku turned to the heroes. "Be on the lookout for a small girl with white hair. Once I free her from overhaul, I will leave this city." And with that, Izuku walked through the portal. Far above in Jones's office laid Misaka in a pool of her own blood. Suddenly someone opened the door to the office. The sound of heels were heard as they walked towards Misaka's body. "It seems you have failed, daughter. This will require you to be re-educated." Izuku walked out of the portal and into the old warehouse. "So you finally did it," Shigaraki said, walking towards him. He nodded. "Yeah, he's dead, but there is still one more thing to do." Off to the side was a laptop. One that Izuku used to plan things out. "What are you doing?" Shigaraki asked. Izuku smiled. "Ever seen someone take down a worldwide company with a push of a button?" The villains all looked at each other confused. "Let me show you." Hitting the enter button, Izuku uploaded something. "Now give it an hour and watch his empire fall," Izuku said, walking into the other room. "Call me when you see something on the TV about Jones. I'm going to get myself patched up and rest for a bit." Izuku went over to his apartment. Walking in, he noticed that blood was still pouring down his arm. "Man, Misaka wasn't playing around. She wanted to slice my arm off," Izuku said, pouring alcohol on the wound. After disinfecting the cut, he began to stitch his own arm. "This is going to leave a scar," he said, finishing up the stitching. "Oh well, I guess that's just another one to add to the collection." Izuku took off his shirt, revealing his back and front were all covered in scars. Almost all of them came from his training with the League of Assassins. Izuku went off to take a shower, but while in the shower he couldn't shake off a feeling of unevenness. He just killed Jones. He should be happy, but instead he felt empty. Izuku decided to sleep it off. He could think of what was to come later. Right now he was going to sleep. 3 hours later, Izuku wake up, a voice said, waking up Izuku. Startled, Izuku got up fast and pulled out a knife from under his pillow. Relax, it's me, said Kirigiri. Izuku relaxed. Don't startle me, I could have killed you. So what's this about? It's all for one. He wants to speak to you, Kirigiri said, opening a portal behind him. Izuku sighed. All right, let's see what he wants, he said, getting up. After getting changed, Izuku walked through the portal. He was now back in the warehouse. Shigaraki was sitting down, with a monitor by his side that displayed the words AFO. Ah, Viper, it's been a while. Shigaraki tells me you achieved your goal. Yeah, I did, Izuku said. So what do you plan on doing now? AFO asked. Honestly, I don't know yet. I was thinking of going after the League of Assassins, but I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll go far away and start a new life, said Izuku. I see. Then would you be open to the idea of working with us? Asked AFO. I knew this was coming, Izuku thought. Working for you? Yes, someone of your skill is much too valuable to at least not try to get you on our side, said AFO. Izuku couldn't see him, but he could tell from the other side AFO was smiling. I'll consider it, but first I want to know what you have planned. Then and only then I'll see if it's even worth my time, Izuku said with a bit of cockiness. You bastard. Don't get carried away, Shigaraki said, getting up from his seat. Shigaraki, enough. Sit down and tell him about our plan, AFO ordered. Yes, sir. Well, it actually has to do with that girl you met before we left to kill Jones. That girl has a very special quirk. You see, she can rewind the time of anything she chooses. With the help of some of the Yakuza, they managed to use her blood to make these. Shigaraki went over the counter and pulled out a small case, handing them over to Izuku. What are these? They look like tranquilizer darts, Izuku said, opening the box, revealing 5 bullets. Those darts or bullets can erase quirks permanently, Shigaraki explained. Izuku's eyes went wide. Is this for real? If can mass produce these, you can restructure society. That's the point. We are going to use these bullets to kill the top heroes. So will you join us? With someone with your skill, we can kill the top heroes in no time, Shigaraki said. Izuku thought back to Eri and the bandages around her body. How do they get the blood from her? The one called Overhaul. He completely destroys her body, and from that he extracts what he needs. When he is finished, he rebuilds her for reuse, AFO said. Izuku closed the case and tossed it back to Shigaraki. Thought so. Sorry, but I'm going to have to decline. Torturing kids isn't really my thing, so if that's all, I think I'll head out now, he said, turning away. Do you really think you can just walk away? Shigaraki asked. Oh yeah, I mean, why couldn't I? Izuku said, turning back. We just told you our plan. Do you honestly believe we let you leave with that information? Shigaraki said, taking his hand out of his pocket. That's when it hit Izuku. I see, so this was all a trick. You wanted it to end like this. Now it seems that I don't have a choice but to join. Let me guess, if I don't, you'll kill me. I knew you would get it. Well, I'll ask again. Will you join us? AFO asked. Tell me ... Is that girl still here? Izuku asked. She is. We were told to take her to our doctor for future testing, Shigaraki said. That's good, I guess, Izuku said, taking a deep breath. Good. What do you mean? Shigaraki asked, confused. That just means I can take her with me, Izuku said, pulling out 2 throwing stars from his pocket. He then proceeded to throw them at Shigaraki, hitting the palm of his hands. This is your answer, Izuku. So be it. You will not live to see the end of today. Get him, AFO ordered. Suddenly the windows of the warehouse were broken and in jumped the rest of the League of Villains. The blue flame of Dabai was seen as he ran towards Izuku. Sorry about this, man. This isn't personal, he said, throwing his fire at Izuku. Izuku quickly jumped out of the way of the fire, only to have Toga come up from behind him, knife in hand. Sorry about this, sweetie, but I have to do what I'm told or the hand guy will be mad. Toga took a swipe at Izuku, cutting at his side. Counter-attacking, Izuku grabbed her wrist, twisting it back. He snapped it. Yeah, I'm sorry too, he said as she let go of the knife. Izuku caught the knife and used it against her, stabbing her in the chest. He finished it off by kicking her in the stomach, causing her to go crashing into the wall. Izuku couldn't even catch his breath when Dabai used his flames to burn his back. Yelling out in pain, Izuku looked at Dabai. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, he said as his back was still smoking. Izuku threw more throwing stars, but Dabai slammed his hand towards the ground, causing a wall of blue flame to appear in front of him. This in turn burned the stars in midair. You're going to have to try harder than that. Before he could even finish, Izuku disappeared from view. Looking around, Dabai didn't see him. That's when 2 knives were plunged into his shoulder, popping his shoulder right out of its socket. Dabai screamed out in agony as Izuku pushed the knives deeper. But just as he was going to twist them, multiple swords came flying past Izuku. Jumping back, Izuku looked at who threw them. This is the first time we met Viper. The name is Spinner, said a gecko-looking man. He wore gear similar to that of the hero Killer Stain. Oh, another swordsman. I didn't know the League had one. Let's see how good you are, Izuku said, pulling on the sword stuck in the wall. Izuku ran towards Spinner, gripping his sword. Izuku swung from the side only to have Spinner block it with his own sword. Oh, you blocked it. Not bad, but let's see if you can keep up. Izuku continued swinging his sword, and little by little he began to cut Spinner all around his body. As those two fought, Twice went to check on Toga. Hey, are you alright? Actually, I don't care, he said with a look of worry. Toga coughed out blood. I'm fine. Alright, Twice, it's time. Twice's eyes went wide. Are you sure? Yes, now come on. You already know my measurements, Toga said, pulling out the knife from her chest. Twice nodded and quickly went to work creating clones of Toga. Spinner started to lose ground, so in a final desperate attempt he managed to kick Izuku in the stomach, pushing him back. Bleeding from all the cuts Izuku made, Spinner prepared his final attack. I may not be as good as you, but I can do this. Spinner jumped on the wall behind him and then to the one across. With each jump he became faster and faster. Soon it looked as if he had after images. Izuku's eyes began to follow Spinner. Not a bad trick, but it's useless if I can see you, he said, thrusting his sword behind him. Spinner tried to attack Izuku from behind but only got a sword stabbed into his stomach. Why, you really are good, he said, spitting out blood. Izuku pulled out his sword and wiped the blood off. However, as Izuku was too into the fight with Spinner to notice the clones of Toga. Oh, Izuku dear. The voice of dozens of Toga's clones echoed through the warehouse. Looking back, Izuku saw at least 24 Togas smiling at him. Wow, this is so creepy. You can take down one of me, but how will you do against this many? They all said in unison. Izuku knew he couldn't fight against all of them, so he did the one thing he could do. Guess I'll just have to run, he said, pulling out a smoke bomb from his pocket. Throwing it to the ground, it immediately exploded, causing smoke to fill the room. Shigaraki was bleeding from his hands when he saw smoke filled the room. I want him dead by tonight. That's when he noticed the box of bullets had opened during the commotion. What he found surprised him. There were only 3 bullets in the box. Izuku had taken the other 2. By the time the smoke cleared, Izuku was already long gone. He ran down the halls of the warehouse, checking each door for the girl. Come on, where is she? He said to himself. Finally swinging a door open, he'd found her on a bed. Found you, he said, running into the room. Frightened, Eri cowered behind her legs. Please don't hurt me, she said, crying. I am not going to hurt you, I swear. Remember me, he said in a calm voice. Looking up, Eri recognized him. Izuku. He nodded. Yeah, that's me. Listen, we don't have much time. We need to get you out of here. I can't. They will be mad at me, Eri said as her voice trembled. Izuku saw the fear in Eri's eyes. Don't worry, if you are with me no one can hurt you. Do you promise? Said Eri. I promise. Now come on, let's go, Eri said as Izuku picked her up. Izuku couldn't help but notice that she was so light and undernourished. We just need to make a stop at the apartment. I need to get something. With Eri in arms, Izuku bursted into the apartment. Seeing that no one was there, he quickly got a duffel bag that had weapons and some food. Alright, Eri, let's go. I have everything I need. Just as they were about to go out through the door, Izuku sensed something was wrong. He quickly wrapped Eri in a hug, and no sooner than he did, the door exploded, spreading blue fire around the apartment. Where are you, Viper? Come on, it's time for round 2, Dabai said, walking into his apartment. Damn, I knew I should have killed him when I got the chance, Izuku said, letting go of Eri. Eri, get behind me. Cover your ears and close your eyes. Eri nodded and did what she was told. Izuku reached into his bag and pulled out a flashbang. Dabai walked into the living room. Come on, Viper. Show yourself. That's when he spotted 3 glimmers of light coming from the hall. As they got closer, Dabai noticed it was more throwing stars. You already tried this trick once, he said, burning them before they even got close. However, he was too distracted by the stars to see that Izuku threw a flashbang at Dabai's feet. By the time he noticed, it was too late. A blinding white light appeared, followed by a loud explosion. Dabai was now dazed thanks to the flashbang. This gave Izuku enough time to grab Eri, throw his bag out the window, breaking the glass, and jump out the window. Landing on the street, Izuku looked around to see he was surrounded. Viper, honey, you can't run from me, said now at least 50 clones of Togas, all armed with knives. Izuku, I'm scared, Eri said, hiding behind Izuku. Listen, Eri, get on my back and put your arms around my neck. No matter what, do not let go. I need 2 hands if we want to get out of here. Eri quickly jumped on Izuku's back and put her arms around his neck. Izuku reached into his back and pulled out twin blades that had long chains at the end of them. With little time, Izuku wrapped the chains around his forearms and ran towards the Toga clones. Thrusting his arm forward, the blades flew away from him and into the skull of one clone, instantly killing it. As the others attacked, Izuku pulled on the chains, recalling them. He then spun around, killing a few more, but that's when they started to get smart. They knew if they attacked Eri and used her as a shield, Izuku would have to stop attacking. One of the clones jumped into the air and landed behind Izuku. She lunged at Eri, ready to snatch her. Suddenly, the sound of metal piercing skin was heard. Looking down, the clone noticed it had one of the blades stuck in her chest. Izuku had flipped the blade and pushed it behind him before the clone got Eri. Izuku began to slice his way through the clones, but numbers would soon win out if things kept going. I can't protect Eri and fight off the clones at the same time, Izuku thought to himself. Just then a knife from one of the clones dug into Izuku's shoulder. He quickly kicked the clone away, but now he was down to one arm. Damn it, Izuku grunted in pain as he pulled the knife out of him. Come on, Viper, I know you can do better than that, the clones said all at the same time. Izuku gritted his teeth as he raised his now bleeding shoulder. I'm just getting warmed up. He once again ran at the clones only to have a blue wall of flames appear in front of him. SHT. Dabai was back and pissed off. Nice trick with the flashbang, but unlucky for you, I don't feel much pain anymore. Now hand over the girl and we might let you back into the league. And let you guys torture this girl even more. Not a chance. I'd rather die than let you take her, Izuku said, pointing his blade at Dabai. Dabai sighed. Alright, have it your way, he said, throwing a ball of blue flame at Izuku. Using the blade, Izuku sliced through the fireball and jumped at Dabai. The Toga clones jumped at Izuku, and in mid-air Izuku would whip his chain, knocking some of them down. However, before the clones fell, they threw their knives at Eri. Izuku saw this and quickly twisted his body around. He managed to deflect a few, but some still struck his arms and torso area. Izuku grunted in pain, but it was fine. Eri was safe. Before he could even land on the ground, Izuku was hit on the side by a fireball. This sent him flying towards a nearby building. Sliding down the wall, Izuku grabbed Eri, shielding her, hitting the ground. Izuku was bleeding from his arms and legs. Well, it looks like you are done, a voice said, pushing through the Toga clones. Shigaraka walked up to the now beaten Izuku. Look at you, all this for a damn kid. Izuku looked up as blood dripped from his forehead. Master really thought you would join us. Someone like you would be perfect here. You have no family, no friends, no job, no nothing, but yet you risked it all for this girl. Why? Because she reminds me of me when I was little. The look in her eyes was so filled with despair, just like my own. I don't know what she's been through, but at this rate she might turn out like me, and that's a fate I don't want anyone to have, Izuku said. I see, you almost sound like a hero right now. Well, doesn't matter, once I kill you I'll have my bullets back and rid myself of you. You may have injured my hands, but I can still use my quirk, Shigaraki said, reaching out to touch Izuku. Izuku's eyes narrowed as he saw Shigaraki's hand get closer. But that's exactly what Izuku wanted. Taping the heel of his foot to the ground, a hidden blade at the tip of his shoes appeared. Kicking upward, Izuku sliced Shigaraki across the eye. GHHH. He yelled out as blood poured down his face. You bastard. My FC can I. Using this chance, Izuku reached into his pocket and cracked another smoke pellet. The smoke quickly disappeared, but by the time it did, Izuku was gone and so was Eri. With his one good eye, Shigaraki saw the pool of blood. Find them. With those injuries, he couldn't have gotten far. Find the girl, but don't kill her. And if you find Viper, bring him here alive. I want to kill him myself. Hours later with Uraraka. Uraraka just spent the last few hours at the police station talking about the events that happened. Jones was dead, and the news got hold of information about his secret underground drug ring. That was information that only Jones had on his personal laptop. The company didn't know who could have gotten that information, but Uraraka knew. It was Izuku. It was now almost midnight when Uraraka got to her apartment. As she walked up the stairs, she noticed a girl standing in front of her door. Are you all right? Uraraka asked, walking up to the girl, who was wearing a black cloak. The girl turned to Uraraka and removed the hood. Are you Uraraka? She asked, revealing her white hair and red eyes. Yeah, are you a fan or something? That's when Uraraka noticed who she was. Wait, you're that girl ... the one Overhaul had captive. I think your name was Eri, right? She nodded. Yeah, I need to speak with you. Wait, before that let's get inside. We can talk there, Uraraka said quickly, opening the door to her apartment. Once inside, Uraraka saw someone standing in her living room. Who the HLL? She yelled out. Uraraka wasn't going to wait for the person to move. She lunged at whoever this was, but stopped when Eri jumped in front of her. No, don't, she said, spreading her arms out. Uraraka stopped and turned on the lights. Viper, she yelled out. Izuku took a step forward and immediately fell to the ground. Uraraka ran over to check on him, and that's when she noticed his back was badly burned. What happened? He was protecting me, Eri said, crying. Uraraka examined his body. He had several stab wounds and was bleeding profusely. We need to get him to a hospital, she said, but Izuku grabbed her arm. And no hospital ... need to keep her safe, Izuku said, his voice weak. Uraraka didn't really understand. All right, it's been a while, but I think I can help him. Using her quirk, she carried him to the bed. Taking off his shirt and pants, she noticed the wounds were much more severe than she thought. Who could have done this to him ... He was almost untouchable fighting us. Did he really put his body on the line for this girl? Running into the kitchen, Uraraka grabbed a medical kit she had. Opening it, she found alcohol pads. Izuku winced in pain as the pads hit his open wounds. Sorry, but this is going to hurt. Just think of this as payback. By the end of it, Izuku passed out due to the pain and loss of blood. Uraraka walked out of the bedroom to find Eri sitting on the sofa. Is he going to be okay? she asked. Uraraka smiled. He will be fine, he's just asleep. Thank goodness. I thought he would die after what they did to him, Eri said as a tear fell from her face. Who did this to him? Uraraka asked. It was the hand guy and his friends, Eri said, thinking back to a few hours ago. Hand guy. That's when it hit Uraraka. Shigaraki, the League did this to him. Why? I thought he was working with them. It's because of me. Izuku found out what they were doing to me and saved me. They chased us and Izuku fought them, but they eventually got him. This is all my fault, Eri said, hanging her head. No, this isn't your fault. I don't know who you think Izuku is, but he is a bad man, Uraraka said, but was quickly caught off by Eri. He's not a bad man. He saved me, Eri said, yelling at Uraraka. Izuku only hurts bad guys. He's my hero. Taken by surprise, Uraraka stepped back. We'll talk about this tomorrow. For now, go take a shower. I have some of my old clothes you can wear. After that, I'll decide if I should call the cops. Eri did as she was told and went to bed right after. Uraraka stayed up until the morning thinking about what she was going to do. After all, she was kind of helping a villain right now. However, after much thought, she decided to give Izuku the chance to talk. Then she would decide. The morning came and Izuku was woken up by the sun hitting his face. Opening his eyes, he noticed he was in an unfamiliar place. Looks like you are finally awake. Good, a voice said. Looking to his left, he found Uraraka sitting on a chair, phone in hand. I actually made it. Thank goodness. Is Eri all right? He asked. Uraraka nodded. Yeah, she's sleeping on the couch right now. Good. I need to tell you heroes something, Izuku said while relaxing on the pillow. What? Uraraka asked curiously. Not only you. This needs to be shared with more heroes, Izuku said. I need you to call a meeting with that task force of yours. I know you can do it. You are a top-tier hero. You think I'd just do what you tell me? After you killed so many? Yeah, no chance, Uraraka said, getting up. If you don't, then all of society will fall. Uraraka stopped. You're lying. Are you willing to take that chance? Izuku said, staring at Uraraka. Let me ask you something. Is it true that you threw yourself in harm's way to protect her? She asked. Izuku nodded. Yeah, I did. How about this? Get me this meeting and I'll surrender. No fuss, no fight, no tricks. I'll just give myself up. Uraraka was a hero and here was Izuku, the most dangerous criminal, laying in her bed, willing to give himself up. All right, deal. We'll go after you eat some breakfast. Can you stand? Yeah, I think I can. Izuku removed the blanket over him. When he did, Uraraka blushed. Izuku was standing there without a shirt and no pants. She could see everything. He put some clothes on first, she said, running out of the room. Izuku smiled. That was a cute reaction. After eating breakfast, Uraraka called a meeting at UA with the original task force. Aizawa and All Might agreed to it and set the time for the meeting at 11 a.m. However, they didn't know why she wanted this meeting. All she said was it was important to the case. Uraraka arrived at UA alone. Walking to the conference room, she opened the door to find everyone waiting for her. Uraraka, you're here, so what is this meeting about? You said it was urgent, All Might said. Yeah, it's about Viper, Uraraka said. You got some new information? Aizawa asked, confused. Why, you can say that, I guess. Look, you all trust me, right? Uraraka asked nervously. Everyone looked at each other. Yeah, of course. Why would you even ask something like that? Momo said. Just trust me when I say that I'll explain everything. Uraraka took a deep breath and opened the door. All right, you can come in now. Everyone looked at the door with anticipation. Slowly, Izuku began to walk into the room wrapped in bandages and with Eri by his side. Viper, Aizawa yelled as he jumped over the table and threw his capture weapon. Izuku grabbed the weapon and pulled, overpowering Aizawa. Seeing this, Aizawa tried to kick Izuku but missed. This gave Izuku the chance to punch him square in the chest, sending him flying towards the wall. The rest of the heroes prepared for a fight. Izuku got in front of Eri, shielding her. Enough, All Might said. Uraraka, we trust you, but why is he here? You'd better explain yourself right now. I made a deal with her, All Might. I wanted her to call this meeting. There's something you all need to know, Izuku said, staring everyone down. I have information you all should know, he said as Aizawa picked himself up. Why would we believe anything you have to say? Momo asked with her quirk at the ready. Cause if without my information, you heroes will probably be dead by the end of the month. Look, I agreed to turn myself in after this, so relax and listen, Izuku said. All Might sat down. All right, let's see what you have to say. Izuku reached into his pocket, which made everyone put up their guard. Easy. Everything starts with this and her, he said, pulling out the quirk eraser bullet. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.